Okay, I'm live. Just going to send out this link to a couple of my social media pages. I do have the gentleman on standby, so we have both of them who are going to be joining us today. I'll get to that in just one sec here. Really looking forward to this, actually. By the way, there, folks, it's going to be should be a good chat, but a really important topic and subject matter that not just appealing to me, but it's probably appealing to quite a few folks out there today. Was Jesus a socialist? Well, we'll get to my opinion, my perspective on that shortly. And of course, I'm going to be opening it up to an AMA as well. So if you have your own perspective, opinion, or a question, make sure to get ready to post that as well. Okay, I'm going to throw that over to these guys now. Okay, so let me throw it on Gab here too. I know there's a substantial amount of Christians over on Gab, so I'm going to throw this over on the Gab network. By the way, Gab has their own Gab TV. I've been contemplating sitting on the fence there. Do I want to try it? Because it literally, it would be an alternative to YouTube. And I got to tell you, BitChute's been a bit of a fail for me, well, especially with my internet connection. So I'm checking into the Gab thing. I still haven't made a choice. Hey, I see Jay for Freedom is actually in there. So let me get the link sent out here. The link is going out to you there, Jay, my friend. Okay, there's the link sent out to Jay. Jay's going to be joining us today, and I'm going to be sending it out to Martin. Here you go, Martin. Martin actually was the first gentleman that reached out to me to participate in this. And like I say, I'm really, really looking forward to talking to both of these fine gentlemen. I've obviously communicated with them in the past on social media, but actually this is my first time having either of these gentlemen on my show. So I'm really looking forward to talking to them once again. And of course, getting their perspective and opinion as it pertains to, was Jesus a socialist, right? Let's see what everyone's got to say and what people's perspective is on that. And of course, you know darn well I'm going to be offering up my opinion as well. Hey, what's going on, Jay for Freedom? Hello, everyone. Hello. Hey, what's going on, Stuart? How you doing, my friend? Matter of fact, if you even yourself, I'm not sure if you want to get involved as well, Stuart. But once again, just like when I brought you on last time, I'd be more than willing to do that as this time as well. A little bit later on, so we give these two fine gentlemen here time to say what they've got to say. D Live and Foxhole are good live streams too. Yeah, I'm not that good at with the D Live thing. I might have to bother my son to get me set up on the D Live thing, because I think that's pretty much what Stefan Molyneux's basically been relegated to using, right? Pretty much D Live. There's a little bit more to it, and it probably wouldn't take me that long to figure it out. And I possibly will. I see Jay is getting ready to join us here. Just give me one sec there, folks. I'll bring Jay into the stream here. How you doing, Jay?
I'm good.
I hear noises. Oh, there we go. Hello, how you doing?
Okay.
You there, Jay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta
we got
close the
Jay.
other screen. Just wait a sec.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just sending out the link to Martin there and make sure he's going to get in the chat. I can hear you, but there is a little bit, when you talk, I can hear like a scratchy. It's a weird scratchy noise. Actually, I'm hearing it when I'm talking now, so it isn't just you. I'm hearing this weird noise in the background. Anyways, I do see that Martin's here. I'm going to add Martin into the stream as well. Hey, what's going on,
Did that solve it?
Hey, Bennett. I'm doing good. Yourself?
Doing excellent. Just hold on one sec there, Jay. I just want to hear Martin, make sure there's no noise come from his end. If you just wanted to say something there, Martin, real quick there.
Yes, I'm Martin. I'm located in Ottawa.
Okay, so not coming from Martin, so I'm not sure if it's on my end or if it's on Jay's end, but we're getting a little bit of a scratchy noise. Not sure if you're hearing that, Martin, but hopefully this all goes away. Tell you the truth, I'm not even on my own internet connection today. And it definitely wasn't divine intervention here, because they would actually want to hear what I've got to say if that were the case. But the people who seem to be the opponents, or maybe it's just another technical glitch, but my entire internet shut down earlier today, about 2 hours ago. Fortunately, my youngest son is actually living with me right now until he moves into his own place, so he has his own internet connection. So I'm piggybacking.
That's all right.
And he's working today. Now I'm having to do it through the Wi-Fi, so it's got to travel from one end of the house to the other. it might not be the greatest connection, but it's working at the very least. But I did find it a little strange. We use the exact same internet connection. We use the same provider. It goes to the same tower. His works, mine's constantly always like, I don't know, man. like I say, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, never played one on TV, but I've never had so many goddamn issues with my internet connection in my entire life. It really does seems weird, but it wouldn't matter anyway, whether it was real, legit, or if it's just, like I've said a million times before, I am going to stand up and speak openly. I don't care if there's one person listen or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people listen. When I feel that something that's important that I've got to say is on my mind, I'm going to say it. That's a simple matter of that. And I'm glad I've got 2 more gentlemen today that are going to do the same thing. So like I say, really appreciate to have you both, you gentlemen on. And I'm going to start with Martin there real quick there, Jay, because Martin actually was the guy that reached out to me first and foremost. And I do want to, maybe if you want to just give yourself a little bit of background, maybe even do a little self-promotion if you want to, Martin, and get to the point where you're like, why you even want to be actively involved in this conversation today.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm Martin, so I'm a resident of Ottawa. I work. I made a living in
the belly of the beast, are you?
In the belly of the beast in Libland, pretty much. I make a living. I'm mostly I work in recruitment and branding for an e-commerce website located in Montreal. Yeah.
Excellent.
And you know, I thought I did post the thing about Jesus not being a socialist as well on your Facebook page, because to me it's really something that is dear to heart, because there's so many interpretations of the Bible that you can make and that you can take, and for me this one is just flagrant error. It's not a mistake; it's an error. People just don't get it.
Okay, thank you very much.
It was important to talk about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. But before we get to all the agreements and possibly, potentially, even some disagreements, let's move on to Jay there. And like I say, Jay, you just do the same thing. Introduce yourself if you want to, promote anything that you're doing on social media or even in real life, in person, any events or venues or anything. Go right ahead, and then just let the folks know why you wanted to participate in this conversation as well.
Well, my name is Jason, whatever you want to call me. I'm not really religious. I'm actually an atheist, and I don't talk like GSP. And yeah, basically the subject interested me because, I mean, yes, I'm not religion, but I grew up under, Judeo-Christian values and all that. So basically, no, it pissed me off when they say that, because if Jesus exists, he really wasn't a socialist. So yeah, and for all that, I'm more like a politically involved due to manifestation. Like yesterday, I almost lost my voice. Yesterday, I was scared I couldn't make the live today. So, so if my voice is raspy or whatever, that's why it is. But yeah, I'm trying to get Canada back together, because it's not doing good right now, and seeing all those preachers and all those churches closed for, excuse me, a virus that doesn't really kill anybody. I mean, that's part of socialism too, basically.
Yeah,
they're trying to, like I said, I'm an atheist. I'm not an anti-theist. Anti-theists are usurping the fucking term. Sorry, shouldn't have said that. They're usurping the term lately, and they're trying, to bash religion and trying to cancel religion. And being an atheist, that's not, and being a libertarian, I mean, live and let live. You don't need to cancel anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're an atheist. I'm not sure if you mentioned it yourself there, Martin, but are you a religious man? Are you an atheist or?
Actually, I'm from Montreal, so I'm French Canadian. French Canadians are were very much involved in being Catholic and Catholicism. So that's what I grew up with. Yeah. Then I sort of lost my faith in my teenage years, and it really started again getting involved about 7 years ago. So I mean, Catholicism never really worked for me. I never really believed in it. I just never liked the structure as well. And the saints are very, the saints in Catholicism are always, they must have like superhuman feats, right, to be considered saints. And 7-8 years ago, I made the switch and I went into Eastern Orthodoxy, Russian mainly. Totally different experience. I really liked it. The issue is that I love going to church. I don't like being in church. So I'd say if you ask me if I'm a believer, I am. I think Jesus has been one of the greatest men that ever lived. But I do not really follow like the doctrine, and I'm a little bit left field in Christianity than most people. I'm into magic as well. I'm into white magic, so I'm into the whole old Christian history as well, where basically what is the distinction between religion and magic. And when you go back to early Christianity, you realize that it was basically magic. It's just when the church fathers came through that they said magic is bad and magic is not Christian and all that stuff. But it goes way back with the Gnostics even. I mean, and this is history that has been suppressed, and I think it's quite sad because there's a lot of rich stuff in there.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. And what you're saying is really, really resonating with me. I come from actually a very, very religious background. My family, in particular on my mother's side, was very religious. And my grandmother was played a key role when my mother and my father went through divorce. She more or less kind of a quasi-adopted me, took me under her wing. And she was very much religious. And like I say, there are things that you're taught. And this is the problem, especially as a young man. And when you enter into the secular realm in terms of education and stuff, well, at that time, I thought the education realm was supposed to be based on secularism and objective, logic, reason, the scientific method. And it is a hard thing, when you're a kid, it's a hard thing to deal with because, as much as we are all inquisitive, but we're also, we're trying to navigate life to the point where we can figure things where things seem to make sense in our minds, right? And when you're told things that are built and based on mystical concepts that have no basis or grounding in reality, it's easy, especially when you're young, foolish, a little naive, to just reject that stuff and I guess kind of throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak, proverbially, is with Christianity. But as an adult, what I realized is once you step into the secular realm, there isn't no real cohesion, right? And one thing about Christianity, there's a sense of cohesion, not forced, not compelled, not coerced, but the cohesion that keeps everyone kind of playing by the same rules are the basic premises, the stories, and the 10 Commandments, and the fact that, violence and force, obviously things that are deemed, not just immoral and unjust, but a sin, right? So, but the problem is once again, is when you're listen to these things and you hear other people and they're using these expressions, these slangs, these terminologies, yet you look out there in the rest of the world, it's like, but is 2 + 2 equal 4? And if you're seeing, it's like, well, okay, if we're not supposed to be using force as a means to an end, right? This is the part where, and even the secular realm, they were trying to invent, I guess, government to be in a replacement, right? But the problem is, to me as an adult, and I'll just shut up and let you guys kind of respond there, is to me as an adult, and this is just like scratching the surface of this conversation, is to me as an adult, I don't want to play the mystical game because I realized where that can lead people, and it can cause people to think in such fantastical ways that you can get your cult personalities that can manipulate and mislead people. But the thing I do understand, though, is humans. We all need some, now whether they come by stories, but we need principles to guide us in our social and our economic transaction, right? To not hit, not steal. Now, they're quite simple. And like I said, I don't even believe that it's not something that can't take place in the secular realm. The problem I'm always dealing with today is with a lot of people who are atheists, or even some religious figures, are once we place that kind of power, right, in the hands of other human beings, rather than this fictional mystical entity in this other world, well, now we have actual real, like, and I've said this many times before, I've heard people say God will smite thee, or strike you down a lightning bolt. It's never happened as of yet, right? I'm still here, I'm still good, but I do recognize there are a whole lot of other human beings that have the skin and bones and and flesh and blood like myself who will use mystical concepts to do real harm in the real world. So I understand this. I understand why people in the past turned away from religiosity, because, you know, the kings were saying, God gave me this divine right, right? So I get how that, and I totally understand where people are, they've rejected Christianity, but until we've come up with some concept in the secular realm that's adopted, universalized, and implemented at least in the secular realm, and something like the UPB, right, or some kind of objectivist philosophy, something that at least grounds our minds in something that's, you know, provable, just like 2 + 2 = 4. But in that interim, until we find that place, or we reach that place, I am always worried that, you know, once you've placed your faith in humanity, or how to deal with people socially, economically, in other human beings, rather than the abstract concept of God, that's where I'm worried about. Because I've seen, and well, I mean, we all know how the 20th century unfolded, and it wasn't based on, you know, any particular religions in terms of God. No, it was all about the state. It was this newfound religion of statism, and that's where I've seen the most pain. Now, there's been things that have happened in the past, for sure, under Christianity, no doubt about it, but we've developed today that I don't know about you gentlemen, maybe you folks can answer this by yourself, but I have never met a Christian yet, and I know quite a few of them, you know, from the time I was a kid, even to today, who constantly advocate for the kind of things that the secular realm, the progressives, the socialists, the communists, you know, what they all want to help the poor. They all want to help the needy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's how you implement,
Sure.
or how you get to that point is where I find the biggest problem. And I don't hear of too many conservative-minded Christians, or even just the Christian, any Christian from any, where they're saying we got to use force, violence, and theft as a means to an end. Which is why, you know, if you give me the choice, one or the other, I'm going to have to align with the Christian community here today, because their opponents in the progressive realm are constantly saying, let's pick up the big gigantic gun in the room and we'll use that as our means to an end. That's a problem for me.
Big problem.
I think saying that you know, Jesus was a socialist because he wanted to help the poor is a very weak argument. You know, we have conservative people, we have people on the right that just want to do the same thing. So it's it doesn't hold. You know, and Jesus never advocated for redistribution of wealth coming from some sort of authority or except for God. He never even mentioned that money was bad. He said it's the love of money that's bad, but
exactly.
not the money itself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, I don't, Kevin, what do you think?
Go ahead, Jay.
Jay, sorry.
Well, basically for me, like I said, I'm a believer. Like, I got belief in everything. It's just, it's not the religion the problem, it's what the human did to it. Same thing with politics. It's only become a tool to control people. So, and what you were saying, like, Jesus never, you know, wanted to redistribute. I mean, it's not, socialism is not caring about people, and the redistribution is not, like, you know, it's mostly going in the pocket of the elites. It's not going in the pocket of the people. So, I mean, remember Russia. So it went by there before it became, you know, communist. So, yeah, for me, it's more, you know, religion at its basis. It's something beautiful. It's something with good valor. I mean, you got evil, good, and the eternal battle in between both.
Yep.
But what human did to it, I mean, it's not for nothing that, isn't there a part in the Bible that Jesus threw out man out of the temple? And I mean, you know, it says it all right there. Human corrupt.
I didn't quite hear what you said. Oh, the merchant?
The merchants in the temple.
Yeah.
Well,
right. Well, that's. Go ahead, Martin.
Okay, sorry. It's because it was a place of worship. It's not because he was against the merchants per se.
Exactly.
The merchants were in the place of worship. So, yes, he kicked them out, and he did the right thing.
Exactly. The money wasn't the problem. The greed was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, the thing about that drives me nuts when you talk about the greed aspect of things, and it took me as an adult, actually, not just because I had members of my immediate family who ran businesses, so I kind of had a baseline understanding of this already, but it really, really set in when I started up my own little small engine business And when you hear people constantly suggest, and once again, there are always exception outliers, not saying, all people that start up businesses are good people or have benevolence at their mind. Some people have selfish desires and reason behind it. But once you understand, if you're going to offer any kind of product or service to anybody, you realize real quickly that that guy in the Monopoly hat or the monocle or the cigar, whatever, as this evil operator. You realize if you ever start a business that actually you have to experience a lot of humility, right? And actually, as an employee, I've been able to go to work, and if I'm competent in my little spot, my little occupation, right, in that particular thing, I have actually in a much better position than when I'm running a business where I have to make sure that I can appeal to all the customers, because, and especially when you're dealing with people in a voluntary and it's a new business, I mean, you're trying everything humanly possible to entice people, right, to come and use your service or your products. And to me, like I say, that's something where you're putting yourself out there. You recognize it's not a zero-sum game. You recognize the only way that works is if you have something to offer and provide where someone's willing to make that exchange. And to me, that's where I recognize that it's actually starting a business is a great way. If you don't have a grounding or a baseline instinct or understanding in terms of how to deal with people in a voluntary means where it's mutually beneficial and it's not a zero-sum game, I would suggest start a little small business somewhere, right? And you'll find real quickly, unlike the socialists or the advocates of communism or collectivism, it's the business owners are the ones that actually put themselves in a situation that they must subject themselves to much more than even the employee. And I have been on both sides of the equation. As the employee, I have to subject myself to maybe my employer and maybe a middle manager somewhere along the line, right? And but as long as I'm competent in doing my duties, I basically have very minimal in terms of bureaucracy or the kind of people I have to deal with. Whereas if I'm the business owner, like I say, it's every customer, it's every employee I have, it's every if I'm building an actual piece of equipment or machinery that requires suppliers, external suppliers from a multitudes of different areas or resources, then once again I have to find ways to mutually deal with these people. They have to be willing to give me a good product
and the best cost. Yeah.
Right. It's really, really difficult stuff to do. And it teaches you a tremendous amount of humility. And when I see so many people coming out of the education system today with this hatred and this vitriol towards people who are the entrepreneurs and the business owners today, it just gives me angst, because I want my own sons to be ambitious and goal oriented. And matter of fact, these people who even are taught to advocate for socialism, I'd love to help them in some way and give them some genuine self-esteem and self-respect and some dignity, because that's what I fear is massively lacking from these people, right? But anyways, I know I kind of been rambling on, so just yeah. And but like I said, to me, that's a really important thing that people need to do is put yourself on the other side of the equation. That's one thing I've always been good at. No matter what kind of argument debate, I want to, for me to learn something, I want to know how to be on the other side of the equation, or even find a whole new perspective. And test that against my own internal logic and thinking. And if I can find fault, then I'll have to readapt and change things up to reflect my newfound knowledge. What I'm seeing today, the socialists, they're still playing by the same goddamn playbook. If they haven't even tried to reinvent, reinvigorate, or even tweak the narrative, it's the same shit. You just got to be envious and resentful of others that have more than you, and look for some means to take from them. I mean, what a terrible, terrible thing to not just teach the young people, but to teach anyone in society.
Absolutely. Being jealous of the success of others. The thing is that most of these people do not realize what it takes to have that level of success. Having your business, my father had a car dealership in the 80s when I was younger. And I saw, his rise and unfortunately his fall as well, because it was good for a few years. Then unfortunately he had some issues. It's tough. You need to deal with your vendors. You need to deal with the manufacturers. You need to deal with your customers. You need to deal with your employees. It's like, sorry, but people that do have a business, if they drive that Porsche down the street, like they probably deserve it. And it's very sad where you live in a society and it's sort of like leveling, at the bottom of what it should be. It's like you don't be successful because being successful is kind of evil. Oh, you're not a good person if you make it. You're not a good person if you have money. You need to redistribute what you have, and you need to pay for reparations or whatever the next thing will be. It would be fun if at some point people would just let other people live. Like, entrepreneurs are what makes the economy roll. If we don't have them, if we only have big boxes where the money goes to wherever, that's not sustainable. And, you know, you
Can I
need
cut
to.
in here?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead,
go ahead.
People need to be responsible for themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Nobody care that they're sitting on their asses and they're lazy and they don't want to do money, so they want everybody else money.
Well,
I
the
mean,
thing is that, yeah.
it's
and
funny
the
you're
thing-
talking about that. Like I said to Bennett this week, I lost my job.
Okay.
And now I got to start a business because I'm like, no, I'm not going back to work for somebody and,
Yeah.
you know, giving mostly all my salary and taxes to the government and the rest of it, all like 3/4 of my time for somebody that's not gonna, you know, benefit me in the end. So I find it really funny because, yeah, I just started my own business. I'm gonna, you know, in the next month I'm opening and everything. I got contact in that trade.
Wow.
So
Congrats.
it
Oh, you're in
should
the
be
trade?
nice. I'm gonna eat a lot of PB&J for the next year, but what do you want?
It's. I mean, unfortunately, when you start your business, right, it comes with that. So you're in the trade. What do you do?
I'm doing screen windows. I used to be in the glass and mirror and shit like that.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I assure you
Well,
that
congrats.
that'll be something that will prove to be beneficial to you, Jay. And I really do. I wish you success on your endeavor there, because it is one of those things that it's going to give you not just that peace of mind and your ability, but you at that point in time, you're the one that gets to steer the boat proverbially and actually literally, right? So that's another thing too. We also
Exactly.
recognize that when you're the business owner, because this is another thing that I've suggested to people too, is, you know, to escape this, and Jesus would agree with this as well, right? We're not talking about going and forming armies or militias to go overturn the Roman proletariat or Caesar, nor today in the modern world. But what we can do, right, is we can use peaceful means and measures as a means to step outside and create our own economic situations that don't necessarily mean we have to take down the socialist or the current paradigm, the current system or structures, but we create our own. And we're seeing, like I say, perfect example of that today is not just people like Elon Musk, who's even saying that you'll be able to use cryptocurrencies to buy and consume his products. But now you're even seeing, what was that guy, the Shark Tank guy, right? The Mark Cuban. He's the owner of the sports team, the Texan. What are they called again? Anyways, one of those. It's a football team down in Texas, and he's now even going to accept. I believe it's Dogecoin or one of these cryptocurrencies. So these are people that are once again are leading by example. Where rather than we don't have to go through a violent revolution. You can just once again, and if you're going to create your business, not only can you accept, Canadian cash or dollars, but you could also you could accept cryptocurrencies. You could accept gold or silver at some point in time, or you could pay your employees and once again, that gives both of you, as the employer and the employee, it gives both of you the ability. And this is one thing that has been really difficult to find in Canada. I mean, you can find, especially in the construction trade, in a couple of areas, you might be able to find a few people will pay you cash here or there, but for the most part, it's a really difficult situation. But once again, if we all are finding ways to step outside the system, we can still maintain, because I'm definitely on board with not, throwing the baby with the bathwater. I believe a lot of great things have happened over the years, as much as there's been some bad things. But I don't want the entire structure of everything, the entire social economic realm we live on, to go away. I just want to improve it and make it more voluntary, where we actually have genuine ways to hold each other to account. That to me is the most important thing. I don't care how it takes place, just that we have the ability to hold each other to account without having to turn to people who are going to be these arbiters to do the accounting. But in reality, they have their own agendas, right? Yeah. And their own ideologies and perspective. So to me, it's once again, personal responsibility. And once again, I believe Jesus would completely be on board with accepting personal responsibility and providing for your fellow man, yourself, and anyone else in society on that beautiful aspect of voluntary exchange, voluntary means, without going through violent revolutions. And I think that's something that not just Jesus, but I think that's something that most people would go on board and accept. And the fact that you're willing to step up the game and start a business, put your footprint in there already. Like I say, if we could get more and more people doing that, once again, we can step out the paradigm, and there's not a damn thing the ruling establishment can do about it. That's how we change things,
Exactly.
from the grassroots and without going through, like I say, a violent revolution. That's how you do it. And I'm glad to see that you are leading by example in that way, in that regard, Jay.
Thanks,
I
man.
think all
There's
the,
something you
the
said about religion, though, that I don't agree with. Oh, sorry. Go for it, Mark.
oh no, go ahead, Jay. I can say
Okay.
it after.
When you say that in the past, in the name of Christianity and religion and all that thing, we did bad things. And I don't agree with that. Yes, we did bad things. That's for sure. A human, again, did it. Christian did it, not the religion itself. It's not in the Bible.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's
Do you
the
understand my
church.
point of view on that? Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
what the
think
church did with it.
I just to clarify, what I mean is, and this is the part where I come at, where I think about the perspective of people like Ayn Rand and from the objectivist philosophy, and I totally am on board with those people, because what I recognize is anything that's in the realm of mystical impossibilities, right? God, we all understand that for most people in the secular realm and the scientific realm, like God is an impossibility. Now, I would say that not necessarily, because if you think about the Big Bang and the concept of God, they both sound just as miraculous and fantastical as each other, right? But for most people, like I say, there were people in the past, they recognize that kings and pharaohs did use the pretense that God gave them some. But once again, we have to recognize it was the human being, it was the individual who used that concept, that idea, or that premise as a means to use it for nefarious reasons, right? Yeah. So I get that. And that's why I suppose some people today believe that government, it can be reformed, right? But this is the part, whether it can be reformed or not, once again, well, the one thing I can say the difference between government and God is government isn't, especially based on the New Testament and the teachings within it, God does not suggest using preemptive force or violence or theft as a means to an end. So the big difference I would suggest, first and foremost, between the secular realm and status and the religious realm is at least there isn't the premise or the pretense that you use violence or theft as a means to an end. But I do recognize that just like in the past, people who used, some of the teachings of the Bible and the way it was worded to use that premise, to use it for their own nefarious reasons. I understand that, but I definitely agree with you, Jay, that it's the people. It's not anything that's contained, because I've never read anything in the Bible. I've never heard anything espoused, especially like I say, in particular to the New Testament, that ever taught me, whether it was as a kid or as an adult, to go out and cause harm to anyone or to steal from people. Nothing about anything.
Turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know where the people are finding these ideas or the reasons to have such hatred or vitriol towards Christianity, but I definitely recognize it's out there. All you have to do is just anything as it pertains to Christianity or religiosity, and just read a CBC article, and you find out in the secular realm, these people that are statists, they don't just disagree with religious people or believers. They loathe and they have utter disdain.
Oh, yes.
For us. And that's a crazy thing, because Christianity, not fans of, hookers and people that are thieves, but at the very least, a Christian would reach out their hand, or for the most part, and try to help that person. Right. Yeah. Whereas those in the second realm, the status, they would just like to throw you in a cage somewhere, forget that you even exist, cancel you entirely. And that's the scariest part of the second realm for me, is this cancel culture, or this idea that people, not only should they not be forgiven, but there's no way they can repent and become renewed or a better person all over again. That's a terrible, terrible message to send anyone, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. And Jesus never said so. Jesus welcomed everyone. Unfortunately, the church has been a tool of coercion since its existence. Jesus never said that homosexuality was bad. He never said that women couldn't be in the priesthood either. These are all, the man took control and eventually, assumed control, and all this stuff came up, and they said, this is what Christian religion should be. But when you take, only what the Bible itself and the New Testament, there's nothing like that. And I'm very much of the philosophy that, let and let live as well. But to go back to your previous point of the morality of religion per se, I think every religion, there's an underlying perennial philosophy to all religions. you shouldn't kill anyone. I think that's a given. You shouldn't steal. You shouldn't go and screw other women if you're married and stuff like that. I mean, this is all basic stuff that makes sense. In a way, was religion necessary to make people understand that these things were immoral and not okay? I don't know, but at the same time, I have friends and I see your hat, Jay, and I assume you're a metal fan, and I listen to metal too, even though I do believe in Jesus, and I have metal friends, and a lot of them are like, I hate religion, I hate the church, but they're Satanists and they love Satan, and that's a religion too, and it's based in Christianity. So the fact that you're going around saying that you hate Christianity, well, Satan is Christian, so sorry, but it goes.
The number of time that people came to me and I believe in Satan and Jesus is bullshit and God is bullshit. I'm like, have you read the book where you took your rhetoric or your ideology, buddy? Because I'm sorry, one didn't exist without the other.
Exactly.
Well, listen, gentlemen, before we continue on, I did want to actually bring up the article that we're referencing and just read that. So it's an article by Lawrence Reed. This is kind of what got us all piqued our interest here. And there's definitely lots of people who are talking about that, not just today, but in lots of areas all over the secular and the Western world in terms of Christianity, because this is something, it's a topic that we really need to delve down into. But like I say, so this one here, and he actually has a book. If you haven't got it yet, I'm actually considering ordering the book for myself. Like I say, it's Jesus Was No Socialist. I'm just going to read a little bit there, gentlemen, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay, so like I said, this was by Lawrence Reed, published on July 1st. So this was back in 2020. Socialism is making a big comeback. Antifa, a radical collection of communists and socialists, is attracting headlines everywhere. Membership in the Democratic Socialists of America has soared in recent months, according to The Atlantic. A poll last year showed that 70% of millennials said they'd vote for a socialist for president. And as socialism has come back into vogue again, more and more of its champions are trotting out a favorite talking point. Jesus was a socialist, painting Jesus red. Those fast-growing Democratic Socialists of America, home to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, have gotten in on this action. Kelly Rose, founder of the Democratic Socialist chapter, told NPR, if anyone was ever a socialist, it was Jesus. Just a couple of weeks ago, London Express newspaper reported that high-ranking British Labour Party politician John MacDonald told an interviewer, I still see Jesus as a socialist. MacDonald has described his vision for Britain as socialism with an iPad. He added that Jesus' life on earth was a demonstration for me of real socialism. On Twitter, progressives use the phrase Jesus was a socialist as the ultimate comeback, as if there could be no rejoinder. Teacher and activist Ivan Rivera encouraged this tactic in an op-ed for Forward Kentucky. In a piece headlined, Jesus Christ, Super Socialist. I got to throw my glasses on here, folks. My eyes aren't the greatest. Rivera told readers, next time someone calls you socialist for being a progressive, here's what to do. Make your face light up and say, thank you. I try to be a good Christian. It will give you an opening to explain how the Bible backs up your beliefs. There's only one problem with Rivera's claim. It's dead wrong. Christ didn't forcibly share the wealth. The fact is, nothing in the New Testament supports the claims of socialists and progressives who try to enlist Jesus in their cause. That's what I show in my new book, Was Jesus a Socialist? And by the way, if you are a socialist out there, if you can find any scripture, any verse, anything within the Bible, then I'm always willing to have any hypothesis or anything that I say tested. So you, like I say, be ready to out there. If you got it in the waiting, then I'd be more than willing to bring you on if you want to try to suggest otherwise. Anyways, I'm going to continue on here. Let's start with the biblical story of Jesus miraculously feeding some 5,000 people with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. As one Twitter user put it this week, this story is the biggest reason why people think Jesus was a socialist. So let's look at the story. As the thoughts gathered, Jesus asked his disciple Philip a very capitalist question. Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat? John 6:6 tells us that Jesus asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. And then Jesus did it. Using his unique power, he multiplied the loaves and the fishes until the crowd was fed. In other words, he created new wealth without stealing a crumb from anyone, which is the opposite of what socialists do. Jesus didn't hand Pilate a list of political demands. But what about Jesus' parable of the Good Samaritan? An interviewer once asked me that very question, adding, doesn't that make the case for government welfare programs and redistribution? Actually, no. The Good Samaritan story makes the case for helping a needy person voluntarily out of love and compassion. The parable does not suggest that it was the duty of a distant politician to use other people's money to help the man in need. Jesus praised private, voluntary charity because it was evidence of where one's heart was. Voting to rob Peter and pay Paul, by contrast, is often evidence not of a charitable impulse, but of motivations which Jesus disapproved. Things like envy, abdication of responsibility, and a penchant for the use of force. It is illogical to assume that because he wanted to help the poor, he would embrace a nanny state. When your mother told you to eat your vegetables, did you assume she wanted a federal department of broccoli? I hardly doubt so, right? Christ didn't hate wealth or the wealthy. Socialists suggest that Jesus had a problem with money and then tell us that to comport with his teachings, we should concentrate money in the hands of the government. They point to his driving of the money changers from the temple. That's what you were mentioning there earlier, a house of worship. They fail to notice that he never drove a money changer from a market or a bank. So just like you were alluding to earlier there, it was just by sheer fact that it was a place of worship. It was not the market. It was not a place for exchange, right? So there's a time and a place for everything, and that's all that was. It had nothing to do with promoting socialism or being anti-capitalist or anti-market by any stretch of the imagination. Jesus cautioned against allowing one's character to fall prey to the harmful temptations that often accompany money. Similarly, he favored eating but not gluttony, sleep but not sloth, fasting but not starving, drinking but not drunkenness. The greatest of the apostles, Paul, drew out this point. Paul didn't claim that money was the root of all evil in the famous and often misquoted passage from the First Timothy. Here's what Paul actually said. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. So once again, what you fine gentlemen were pointing out earlier. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. 4 times in the New Testament, the term filthy lucre is used in the context of money. In every instance, it references theft or dishonesty, as in lieu or ill-gotten gain. Jesus never employs it to castigate wealth per se or wealth creators. Jesus praised entrepreneurs. In fact, in the few parables that deal with economic matters, Jesus never even hints that he would endorse socialist schemes. His parable of the talents exalts wealth creation. His parable of the workers in the vineyard is an endorsement of property rights, voluntary contract, free market wages, and supply and demand. Jesus exhibited no affinity for the concentration of earthly power. He repeatedly urged humility, a trait in short supply among socialists, eager to plan the lives, businesses, and economy of other people. Jesus taught people to be of generous spirit, to care for their families, to help the poor, to assist widows and orphans, to exhibit kindness, and to maintain the highest character. You can translate all that into a dirty business of coercive, vote-buying, politically driven redistribution schemes only if you read the Bible without paying any attention, or if you're willing to distort Jesus' teaching to advance the political agenda. Remember that the next time you hear someone say Jesus was a socialist. So before I could hand it off to you guys, this part right here, I'm just wanting to get your thoughts on this one, right? In terms of no affinity for the concentration of earthly power, a trait short supply amongst is the eager to plan the lives. And that's the part that has always irked me, I've never, and I've said this a million times over, and I'll say it a million, probably more times before I pass away from this earth. I've never had any pretense of yearning to have such control other people's lives, right? I want to have some kind of order, some kind of semblance of reason, something that gives me a good place in life and teaches me things to be a decent person. But I've never had this pretense or premise that I should actively have control over so many people's life. And that is the one area, like I say, and I would ask anyone there, I'll ask both of you gentlemen and anyone out there, have you ever come across a socialist that doesn't have this thing where they feel compelled? Their mindset seems to be overly consumed with worrying about what other people are doing, what they have, or how to micromanage every aspect of the social and economic life. And that part to me, this is why this resonates with me, because that's that yearning for control. That's the part, right? That's that corrupting aspect. And we all have it subtly somewhere deep inside us, right? But most of us, if you're decent anyways, try to suppress that as much as you can, right? And teach humility. That's, like I say, as a business owner, it taught me a whole lot of humility, right? Trying out both sides of that equation, be the employee or the employer, gave me so much. But like I say, what do you guys think? Because that part of the socialists, they constantly seem to, it's control. It seems to be all about control. What do you guys think?
Even the anarchists on the left, when you really dig down and talk to them, they will always relate to some form of control or coercion to get what they want, to get to the end of their objectives. So I don't, on the left is very much about controlling people, and I think a lot of it stems from the fact that either they're very anxious or they have some type of angst of like, what the German word basically says that they have like no meaning to their existence. And I think people on the left find meaning in their lives as being, they see themselves as being this sanctimonious, very, very fun person, very accepting person to be around. When you really take off that veneer though, and you dig, it's all about control. It's all about controlling the rich people, controlling the people that don't have the same mindset, that do not think like you, treating people as fascists or racists or whatever the new term is, and shutting down other opinions. And I think this is very sad, because this is what the left is all about. It's coercion, shutting down people that have different mindset, different point of view. And it's funny because when you look at people on the right and you look at conservatives, they are a lot more tolerant. They are a lot, they will accept your point of view. They will have a conversation with you, even if, they will agree to disagree. But the people on the left, you never have that chance. You can never debate. You can never, explain yourself. It's like you're labeled as this, and this is what you are.
Hey, can I ask you a question back in response to that, Martin? Actually, because that's something that I thought about multiple times, and part of me actually thinks I agree with you 100% there. But I also remember I'm 50, so I'm old enough. I'm in that weird age range, I guess.
I'm 48, so
okay, cool. So you got the greatest generation son. I still like I still remember so much. But it was when I was younger. It was the crazy part of it. This is the part that I'm constantly wondering: is it was the right that seemed to be the most overbearing when I was a kid, in terms of the ones that identified as conservative and were your typical Christians were the ones that seem to be. I'm wondering though if these people that have turned. That's the thing in Canada today too. As I always wonder about this, is the people who identify as conservative or liberal. It's a weird. Our political landscape in this country is really, really weird, because growing up, like I say, it would have been considered the Christian conservatives who would have been the one finger wagging, don't do this, or like don't watch porn, don't gays are bad, like all that stuff, constantly like trying to micromanage and control people's lives. But at the same time, I recognize that a lot of these people ended up leaving the Christianity realm and going into the secular realm or going into work for government. Are some of these people the same that maybe when they were younger? Because that's another thing we all recognize too, right? When we're younger, they're people identify as socialists or liberal. As they get older, they become more conservative. I'm wondering if some of these people today may very well have been considered conservative, although the classical liberal type of conservative, I guess, in Canada. And then today they felt disenfranchised with their the other people in their community. So they tried to create their own religion in the secular realm in terms of the state, So they've taken a lot of their Christian thinking, but they're trying to adopt that into the realm of the state somehow. It seems, because like I say, some of these people, when you talk, if I just wasn't listening, but I didn't know if I didn't know whether they came from the left or right, a lot of the so-called progressives today, it's like shit. If you didn't tell me they come from the left or right, I'd be like, I'm listening to some Christian fundamentalist from back in the 70s or something, right? Because they sound very much just as overburdened in terms of trying to micromanage people's lives. So, like I said, I don't know. I don't just me thinking it loud here. But what do you think about that?
You're right.
Yeah.
A shift happened somewhere. Yeah, a shift happened somewhere where right went left and left went right in some kind of weird way. I'm not saying like right winger went left, but the ideology changed. I mean, I'm in Quebec.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as conservative in Quebec.
Right.
We have liberals and we have separatist liberals. It's basically it.
Pretty much. Yeah.
When did that shift happen? I remember, we still have a conservative party in Quebec, but I mean, read their book. It's liberal. So, I mean, I'm effed up here.
Let's look at
go ahead.
Look at the states. Like segregationists used to be people on the right. They don't want racist mixing and all that stuff. And I just read an article on Friday that some university, very liberal on the left university, actually want to segregate the diplomas reception or whatever it's called by age, by race, by sex, and by diploma. It's like like the 360. It's like it's stuff that people
even the study room in the university.
Yeah, but it's coming back. But now it's all right because it's people on the left. They're the do-goers, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's like mind-boggling.
Look, they're saying that black are not represented enough in the States and that the racism is everywhere. The system is racist. What's the first thing they do? They elevate the criminal as Jesus.
Yeah.
They take Aunt Jemima off the bottle. Where's the common sense and all that?
Well, while you have
promote your people.
Yeah, you have real role models in the black community, but unfortunately, these people are being labeled as Uncle Toms because they're successful and they're and unfortunately, it's a whole mentality change. I'm not saying I'm not obviously not black, so I cannot speak for them. But as a white person, I look what's happening, and it's being supported by mostly white people. It's like, look at this successful white woman or white man. Well, white woman, not white, but black woman, and black women now. From what I see is that they're more accepted. But the successful black man, it's like, no, man, it's like you're too white, right? It's like, it's sad. It's so sad. It's like these people would be the role model.
I grew up with a black uncle that we adopted when he was a baby. Yeah. And basically, I've never noticed skin color until Adol introduced it to me.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
At the point when I got somebody that was racist toward my uncle, that's when I realized what the hell's going on. Why is he even caring about his skin color? I mean, he's a human. Yeah. At that point in my head, there's only one race. Our little stupid monkey.
Well, I mean, totally agree. It's so sad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, here's kind of what I was thinking, guys. So I don't know like what you're thinking about this, but I can't help but think. So the people who grew up to be Christian and fundamentalists in some way, like I say, the ones that turn towards the secular realm in terms of government. What I'm thinking of, this is just me hypothesizing off the top of my head here. I'm thinking if you're not efficient, affluent, and have a real good ability to and a personality to be able to affect people's mindset and what they'll accept in a voluntary means. So I'm thinking, you could be a salesman, you could be a preacher, you could be all kinds of things and exude and suggest a lot of things to a lot of people. And if it's accepting, right, if you're good at what you do, you would remain in the secular or I should say not the secular, but in the private sector or in the realm of religion. But I'm thinking, maybe a lot of these people who have pivoted away from Christianity and have gone and made state their new dominant religion is they were maybe less patient and unwilling to just stick to the voluntary means. right? So in the private realm, once again, I'm completely beholden to, do I have something to offer? And if it's all voluntary, I have to be reliant on my skills, my sales, or at least the product or the service I'm providing, that it can sell itself in some way, in some regard. Whereas if you're not good at that, if you're incompetent or you're much less competent than your counterparts, maybe you gravitate towards the state, because rather than being able to, if you can't convince someone to buy your product or service, well, it's a whole lot easier to make sure that happens if you use the power of force, right? The power of the state. And that's what I'm kind of recognizing and thinking, and like I say, hypothesizing out loud, is maybe, it's the people who failed miserably in terms of the voluntary exchange in the private realm, who gravitated towards, because once again, they just couldn't get enough of that force, right? I'm thinking, even if you're a preacher in the Christian community, you're not going to get your people to be able to get on board with rampant forced wealth and income redistribution, because they at least understand the teachings of Christianity in the Bible, and they're not looking at you. You might be a good preacher, but they're not looking at you as the ultimate authority. God is still their authority, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the secular realm, you can remove God entirely, and now you're the almighty authority, right? And now people, whether they accept it or not, they're going to have to do what you suggest, because you are the authority, and it's either you do what I say or you suffer as a consequence. And that's the part where I think what we're seeing today is why the state, and how it always ends up in a couple hundred years greatly degrading to the point where it eventually collapses, because you have the worst, right? Once you get into the parasitical realm, where government represents force and violence, not as a means to protect, right, against such things, but once people, and there's an old expression from, and I've got so many quotes that I could mention, but the old saying, I forget who to attribute to, but once you teach people that they can, use government as a means to steal from other people, well, I mean, think about the kind of people that's going to want to gravitate to that kind of environment, which is why you see today the entire realm, anyone that's part and parcel of government, not just like politicians and legislators, but judges, lawyers, the educators. I mean, people from all different areas and venues in terms of the occupations seem to have that same mindset now. And once again, I can't help but think these are people that they couldn't get by in life through voluntary means. So those are the ones who automatically gravitate towards using force, and why eventually these things end up collapsing, because that's what you end up with at the end of the day. And people who are constantly using force as a means to an end, right? If you know that force is one option, but there's another area over here where it's voluntary exchange, well, once again, that's how that ceases to exist, and where you get an introduction of a new model. Like the old day or 100 years ago was free market capitalism. What we're going to come up with today, I don't know, but between blockchains, cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, and all kinds of ways to escape, we definitely see that there's multiple methods or methodologies we can escape this. But right now, the people who are in control or at the helm of all these mechanisms of power are trying desperately to make sure that their force will overrule or override any of our ability, not just think critically, but be able to challenge them in the social or economic realm. So once again, I know I kind of just went on a big ramble there, but that's me. I just think out loud, and that's kind of where I was going.
That's why they're so afraid of crypto as well, and blockchain. I'm personally a blockchain architect. Like I work in tech, so nice. my job in recruitment and branding, I actually work for a tech portion of the organization I work for, and blockchain, crypto, but also all the NFT. And we've seen in the last couple of days, like the non-fungible tokens have really taken off by songs and albums and all that stuff, which is nice. But there is a way of making things in a more libertarian mindset with all that stuff. It's crazy, the sheer force that blockchain has. And it can absolutely revolutionize anything that we do and everything that we do. It's such a nice technology, seriously, and it's not that complicated. That's the thing. It's not like you need to be a math or a computer genius to figure it out. It's a process that you learn, and you can do it. But the flexibility is right there. And also, it's funny because I think with all the control and things that you have mentioned, it's hard for people. Like religion was, at some point telling people what to do. And then, as you mentioned, the state took over and the state tells people what to do. And we see it with the COVID thing, right? The goalposts are always, oh, it's only for 2 weeks, and a year and a month after we're still in it. It's like, and the goalposts are always extended. And now people that won't get vaccinated won't have the privilege to be in public. They're going to have that passport going on. And it's always the same thing. It's like, oh, look at us. We're the good people. We do this. Health is a serious thing for us. Yet all the places where people wear, like the older people and the residences and all that stuff, they've been in like squalor for more than a decade, and now it's like, because COVID, we need to take care of our old people. It's like
20 years at least.
Yeah. It's like, come on. It's like, and people don't see what's good, or they don't want to see, or they're not interested. I don't know what's going on, but this is the prime example of how a state can corrupt. Look at the last year for a virus that kills like 27% of the population. Like, come on, seriously.
Not even.
Yeah.
Not even.
And it's all, and like I said, not, no one wants to see anyone die, but we all recognize that these people are all people in long-term care facilities, really old and elderly, comorbidities. And it's one of those things that, once again, we feel terrible about this stuff, but I constantly worry about this stuff. And when you're thinking about the demographics of it, it's like, listen, one of the most important people in my life passed away actually last year during COVID. It wasn't from COVID, and she was in my long-term care facility. It was that grandmother I was telling you about that took me under her wing when my parents were going through a divorce. And I felt bad about losing my grandmother and stuff, but I can't help but thinking the part that drives me nuts, as much as and I'm one of those guys, trust me, I love my grandmother. I loved her tremendously. She was really important to me. But it's like, why are we not talking about, as much as, she lived a pretty long life. She lived into her 90s, and a lot of these people were dying or in their 80s, right? And it's like, once again, I feel bad for them. But holy shit, why is it? And then even growing up, it's like, what I get the respect for the elderly, and I'm totally on board there. But do kids not fucking mean anything? Do young people not mean anything? You're talking about people today, right? If you're talking about the Gen Zers or even some of the younger millennials who have their entire lives still ahead of them, and you're taking fucking, well, since the financial crisis and this ramp up of this massive amount of fucking debt just to get not even really an education, to be indoctrinated, right? It's like, in which a lot of these people that are coming to schools, they're going to learn. Matter of fact, a lot of these people, they're when they get to their occupation, they're going to realize your boss is going to teach you a whole lot of shit. It's like, forget about that crap they taught you in this fucking stupid school, because none of that stuff is going to be applicable in the real world. These hypothetical situations or scenarios, not always the same. Trust me, as an engine builder, I've read a multitude of books, when I was a kid, and realized that, nope, there's all kinds of ways. And that's why you need the critical thinking skills, right? If you can teach kids to think critically, then, well, actually, that one thing alone is why I know, and why I don't have to be conspiracy theorist. I don't have to hypothesize about how bad people are. I just recognize, if you can go through 12 years of education and still not come out on the other side of that with at least the bare minimum of the ability to think critically, right? To steel man your opponent's argument, at the very least, to at least take someone else's perspective into, then I know, once again, it's no different than going back to the religious teachings of the old day, where it's just listen to what I say, never test it, never question it. And that's so stifling. It was stifling when it was done by the Christian community, like hundreds of years ago, and it's stifling today by the progressive or the secular community. And to me, that's what we need. That's what needs to be adopted, is at the bare minimum, just give people the ability to think critically about the issues, rather than keep jamming shit down their throat on an ideological basis and hoping that will stick. Yeah. That's the part that fucking drives me nuts. Whether you're a parent or a grandparent or some leader in society, stop teaching people that you just do what I say, right? No, teach fucking people the skills to think critically about these issues. Then the beautiful thing about that, not only do they gain a great benefit, but then you as the parent or as a leader, you can go do your own thing and not have to be fucking looking over, micromanaging their every aspect of their lives, because you've given them the skills, which tells you, right? The people who are in control, the people who are educating them, they seemingly, right, don't want these people to be properly educated and informed. Because once you do teach someone to think critically, well, just like when I was a kid, right? I'm one of those few people that I used to piss teachers off all the time by questioning them. Just like when I was in the church, I would constantly, but you know what? I'm glad I had that. And yeah, sure, I was treated like an outcast, and sure, I didn't go along with a lot of other peers in school that sat down and did everything. But you know what? Look at me today. When I look at me today and I compare the people that were just dumbed down conformists, I would not trade my place. I would not change one fucking bit about me or put myself in their position, not even for a half a heartbeat. And what I want to do is not just take that and use that as a means to parade around and say, yeah, I'm better than you. Actually, what I want to do, what I do with my own kids, what I do with anyone I've ever met, even in the racing realm, I want to be able to be competitive, but I also want to make sure that you are bringing your best game to the table. I'll teach you even what the fuck I know, not because I want necessarily to outdo me, but at the very least, the only thing that's ever going to benefit me is if you have the confidence to challenge me in some way, and that way that's how we raise and elevate each other. But if I'm just constantly tricking you or keeping you in the doldrum or telling you shit that keeps you on the bottom level, intellectually, philosophically, socially, or economically, that's me trying to maintain my presence or my supremacy or my superiority over you. And once a person doing that, well, they've got issues in their mind. They've obviously got either power and control issues, or they themselves haven't had their mind developed where they actually have self-esteem. And that's the area, like I say, where I see so many Canadians and so many young people today are failing and lacking in that regard. We need to give these people the proper, not just the ideas, the principles, and the premises, but the ability to think critically when anybody comes at them with some kind of bullshit premise, so they know automatically how to push back against it.
Able to build an argument as well. It's all feelings now. I don't feel. It's not good. I don't feel good about this.
Yeah.
Where do you go with feelings? Seriously. I work with a bunch of 20-somethings, and they idolize AOC. All right, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. Yeah. So we had many interesting conversations, but they see me as the old man, right? Oh, you're the old man. Blah, blah. But it's quite interesting because when I do talk to them and I ask them, why do you love AOC so much? And it's all by, well, you know, she wants to feed the poor. She hates capitalism, yet she lives in New York and she works at Congress. It's like, that doesn't jive. But anyways, and they just don't get it. Unfortunately, they don't have the tools. They don't have the mentality, and they don't have the critical thinking of coming up with arguments to defeat what I have to say and what I say. It always finishes, well, I don't feel good about it, so that's it. It's like, well, sorry, but in the workplace, feelings like, you know, you don't want to get fired because you don't feel like getting fired. Like, sorry, that doesn't apply. Like, and this is the whole mindset that needs to shift. And unfortunately, what we are with universities and colleges that are basically indoctrination centers, it's hard. Like,
well,
there's no.
It's sad to say, but the problem comes back to one thing.
Yeah.
And that thing is, and that maybe should have been a commandment on those two rock plate thing that Moses bring down from the burning bush. I guess he was smoking a joint up there, but anyway.
Well, actually,
people that get power, that goes into power, into government, school, teacher, whatever, you get a position of, you know, you have power over somebody else. We should only give those jobs to people that don't want them, because they would be the best to do the job if they have the competence. I mean, don't go give that to the idiot of the village and beat it. Well, they already did that for prime minister, but anyway, I mean, you know, don't go give it to just anybody. Find somebody competent and somebody that doesn't want the job, then give it to him. Because you're gonna get the best guy to do that job.
Yeah,
but
that's the problem.
Again, human greed come back in the way, and they want power over other people. They want control, and all goes to shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the crazy part that drives me nuts about the politics of today, especially under auspices of wealth redistribution. Of course, the guy that's going to step out and say, "Hey, I'll give you as much of other people's money as I possibly can get my grubby fucking hands on." But I mean, that tells you how degraded your society has become, and that's the other that's the other crazy aspect of it. It's not just right. I mean, if you think about it, if you go back, there's been times in human history where people were just living in abstract. Well, I mean, poverty is the default state of nature, right? That's what it is, right? So prior to all these amazing innovations, creations, and things that are at our disposal today, I mean, I could even understand hundreds of years ago people constantly advocating for these forced wealth and income redistribution schemes based on the pretense that there were so many people that were just so wealthy beyond imagination, and nobody deserved. The part that drives me nuts today is even probably the lowest, the poorest, disenfranchised person among us today. If you compare them to just a king, and you've probably heard this said before by other people in the past, just a few hundred years ago, they're right on par or maybe a little bit better, living better than a king would just a few hundred years ago. I mean, this is the part which tells me that we're going into some serious late stages, and it kind of reminds me, I'm a big history buff too, so the late stages of the Roman Empire is you just get to where hedonism becomes rampant, right? Money is just, it doesn't have anything. People don't recognize the value of money because they're not recognized that money properly is supposed to be the representation of productivity, right? Of value, right? But I mean, once you get into the realm where you just have governments that can print that shit, just turn on the presses and somehow you can artificially create wealth. Well, this is what you live in, where you have generation after generation and generation of people who have been taught to think it's such this crazy manner where nobody has any general principle or even understanding of what any of this stuff means. They're just looking, once again, it's the destruction of all the things that the beautiful people in the past who tried to do. I mean, whether you're talking about the French Revolution, the English, the Austrian economists, the shit they brought to the table, the classical liberals of Europe. These are people that thought, and the Enlightenment era, post-Reformation, these are people that worked unbelievably hard and went through difficult tasks and tremendous tribulations to make sure that we did place ourselves in a realm today that, look at the world we live in today. But people are more fucking miserable. They got a whole lot more stuff, but they're miserable. They can't stand to even look themselves in the mirror, which tells you there's something in the recipe that's missing, right? There's somewhere in there, right? Everything else, you got the best of all these ingredients, but there's something missing. What it is the respect, the 100% respect for voluntary exchange and the individual and what they bring to the table, right? The minute and this is the part, and it's not about being egotistical, but what I've always understand is if you don't give everyone, just like my kids, if you don't give people their autonomy, their sovereignty, and respect them for that, then they're always going to place themselves subjugated in their mind, right? Not just in their physical realm, but they're going to subjugate themselves in the mind. Whereas if you give them the proper teachings and the understanding where they have self-esteem, a little bit of dignity and respect, they will not allow themselves. Like I know myself, and I'm sure you gentlemen are the same way. I will not ever allow myself to be subjected to anybody. I might falter, I might fail from time to time, but my brain, my mind is not conducive with subjecting myself to something or to someone. Why? Because I recognize that I have lots to offer. Lots of people on this planet have plenty to offer. That's the beautiful thing about the division of labor and what we can bring to the table, from the lowly of the lowest of the lowest, the guy just swinging the fucking hammer, right, to build the frame for your house, all the way to the guy that designed and engineered the longest bridge span on the planet. Everybody has something to bring to the table. And once again, that's the beautiful thing of the free market and that division of labor, is everybody can be respected for what they can individually bring to the table. But once you've treated and taught society that there's only a small segment or semblance of society who are deemed respectable, and once again, these are the worst people among us, to tell you the truth today, and the rest of society are just what? Relegated down to serf slaves. They're subject to a ruling class. Well, of course you're going to live in a country of people who are willing to accept and adopt socialism, big government, authoritarian mommy and daddy, because you've not developed these people's brains to think like an adult. once you give someone dignity, self-respect, and they can think of an adult and they know how to do actual proper mathematical equations in terms of the economic realm and come to realize what value is all about, they will never fall. They'll never be susceptible for any of these collectivist endeavors. But that tells you the fact that most Canadians today are willing to accept this shit and promote socialism as a means to an end. And these are people are functioning from an area of their mind that they have no self-respect and dignity. I want to bring that to them. I want to help them in that way. I don't want them to be egotistical to the point where they're thinking they're superior to everyone to use that as a means to oppress or cause harm to someone. But once again, every time I try to tell people that to try to do better, I keep getting this message back that's, no, I like it down here at the bottom. Leave me here. I got a lot less responsibility, and all I really got to do is go and fucking, rail against the man. And that's all I got to do is as a means to virtue signaling. What a fucking terrible thing to teach young people today, right?
Yeah, Bennett, to go a little bit further on your point, I think we live in an age of spiritual emptiness.
Yeah,
like people are nihilists, and one of since we're talking about Jesus and the church, a person that I very much admire, his name is Seraphim Rose. I even have one of his icons because I love the man so much. He actually wrote a book called Nihilism. It's more of a pamphlet. It's about 80 pages.
Okay.
And he nails it down. He wrote that like in the mid 80s, but he could already foresee what was coming up. Like this vacuum, this spiritual vacuum. It's and you read it and it's just exactly what's happening now. It's like people need to believe in stuff. They don't believe in God anymore. So they need to believe in things that they think will make humanity progress. One example, all the transsexual stuff happening right now, right?
Yeah.
Does it make sense? I'm not one to judge. If I look at it as a parent, I do have a 12-year-old son. It doesn't make sense for me.
Right.
If I was, luckily I have a son and not a daughter. If my daughter would have been in competitive sports, I think I would have done something against it because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But I have no problem with, that type of people. They can do whatever they want. Where I have a problem is like when they want to impose what they are or the vision onto others, and other are not, will be disqualified or won't be able to reach their potential because of someone that is already biologically superior. And for me, that's a big problem. So if they want to, if they want to create their own league and their own type of sports, like, go ahead, please do it. But
it's not just that, it's the canceling that goes with it. Did you heard about the guy in BC that is in prison right now because he talked about his little girl being basically brainwashed?
That's a sad story.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, that's a sad.
He can't even say his name. Let me tell you something. If the guy cannot say his name, how do we have freedom of speech here?
Yeah, well, because I'm not sure if you're familiar, Martin, but what he's alluding to is that because this, you're not allowed to dead name, right? This whole thing. But yes, his ex-wife, I believe, or whatever, is trying to get the child to, or like I say, I don't get, I hate getting into people's personal fucking lives, to be honest with you. But yes, this story, because I don't know what's going on in people's lives. I do know. That's the thing that drives me nuts with people that try to use these collective statements in terms of, which is why as a libertarian, unless I've lived in that household and know these people intrinsically for a long period, I don't want to judge. And that's kind of completely goes along with Jesus and Christianity, right? How dare I cast judgment, right? Am I living in this fucking glass house here? No, but so this is the thing. I just realized that's the relationship between those people among their family and their relationship, whether they believe in God and what they got to do and rectify or deal with the situation with their child, right? Because this is something that's going to unfold, and who knows how it may. But I'm completely on board, and I agree with Jay here. Is listen, we've even all come as a society to accept that we don't allow kids to drink fucking Javex, right? We don't allow kids to, we have to be the stewards, right? That when children are in these susceptible and vulnerable situation, that is the point as adults, that we have to be the the stewards and make sure we're taking care of them. Now, as the parent, yes, if your child is confused in some way, and I'm not even saying there aren't some people, exception outliers, who maybe do feel uncomfortable in their particular, but once again, these are children. These are children. Let children develop. Let children develop. And even if they are having some weird feelings about themselves sexually or whatever it is, it's up to you as a parent, as a community, to help them develop in a way so they feel more comfortable in their skin, right? Don't try to change these people. Now, once again, as an adult, right? Just like an adult, if you want to fucking wear a mohawk this high on your head, if you want to tat yourself from head to toe, right? I don't care. Do your thing, right? But let's
leave the kids alone,
kids, man, because you never know. I know as a kid, there's a lot of shit I thought about as a kid. It's like, oh fuck, I'm glad nobody ever told me that the shit I said I wanted to do as a kid. And I hope I'm glad no one took me so serious that they fucking physically changed me to reflect something that I thought that was great when I was a kid. Because maybe today as an adult, I might not. And we get that gender dysphoria is a real thing.
Yep.
And we get that there are people who end up not just committing suicide, but eventually try to unwind and undo all that took place. And they can't. And now they're going to live the rest of their lives trying to deal with. Now, they're going to have to find it. I would say even at that point in time, you're going to have to find a point even now where you better find a way to be comfortable in your skin. But I would have said long before that, long before the transitioning, and long before they reach adult, let the fucking kids be kids. And the fact that there are parents alive today, and I get it. Listen, as a parent, if I was going through that situation, I feel for you. If your kid, but you know what? You can love your kid and you can try to accept your kid. There's nothing wrong, right? Even if you got a kid, right? Hey, if you want to throw them in a dress, right? They want to throw on. Once again, not saying that's a great thing, but I'm just saying you don't have to go out and make a physical composition change that is permanent and is undoable. You don't have to do that. You can do all kinds of things to help your kids become well-adjusted adults, right? I've even talked with, and I've communicated with people who are transgender people in the community. Not sure if you guys are familiar with Elle's Place. She has a YouTube channel and talks about politics and stuff. And I've had her on my show. He originally, but she now. And once again, I don't get into the conversation or try to figure out, are you a good person because you're a trans? I don't care about any of that.
Exactly.
All I care about at the end of the day, are you going to respect me for my sovereignty, for who I am? Are you going to, right? As long as I don't use force or violence, then, you do your thing. And that's what libertarians are all about these days. Because it's not that I'm accepting, and people say, oh, libertarians, oh, that must mean you're hedonistic. No, what it is no, I just don't fucking think that I'm in a position or should ever have any position to tell other people what to do. I don't know what's best for these people. I'm not that fucking egotistical to ever think that I would know what's best for people that I have no idea what their background, their history, or their life story is. So let them deal with their situation. And that's the best thing that we can do as a person and as a community and as a society. And really, right, in terms of, if you want to stretch this out to the global realm, right, if we deal with each other voluntarily and respect each other for our sovereignty, we'll be much better off. Does it mean we'll be perfect? Does it mean crime is going to cease to exist? Does it mean bad things are never going to happen? No. But it's definitely going to give us a much better chance and a much better opportunity than constantly reaching for the proverbial gun in the room as a means to an end.
Yeah. Speaking about the transgenderism, one thing I'd like to put out there as well, and this is coming again from the church. Jesus never, if there was such a thing back then in the ancient early Christianity, Jesus never said anything against gay people, against transgender people. Jesus never said anything against gay marriage. And unfortunately, this is again where the whole religion is getting a bad rap, because people are like, you're a Christian, you're against, you're for abortion, you're against abortion and against gay marriage. I'm personally against abortion, but that's a personal choice. Yep. I'll never go and be tell people that they're stupid because they're pro-choices. I don't, again, like you said, that I don't know their situation. They probably can't have child. Maybe something happened, right? Maybe sometimes it's the only recourse. So, but at the same time, I think what's wrong is that people that are against Christianity see Christians as being very rigid, very, one type of person, and that's not really what Christianity is all about.
Yeah, I hear
Well,
you. I just
being an
noticed.
atheist
Hey,
myself, when it's what brings them there, a lot of them, because I know anti-atheists, but basically every time you go somewhere where it's religious, you got the ideology that the religion push on you.
Yep.
Like I said, you
Mm.
shouldn't give those jobs to people that want them. You should give them to people that don't want them and don't push it on others. I mean, when I go to a church to study a painting when I was in college, but I cannot have the priest off my back asking me about my faith. I mean, can you let me
Yeah.
work and watch the? It's that thing that push people really far from religion and push them to hate it is because they always want to push it on you, but those are the fanatic one, if you want.
yeah.
But
Brutalizing. Yeah.
exactly.
So getting more
I'm
adherence.
just looking in the
Yeah.
chat here, folks. I wanted to see because I mentioned folks that I would get to an AMA here. Like I say, I really appreciate you guys coming onto this chat today because this is like I say, it's a really important thing. And young people today, I recognize, are so far removed from the teachings of Christianity. And I, like I say, I kind of understand this. We were supposed to be going head towards the secular realm, but once again, even people from the atheist community, even Richard Dawkins, I've heard him say, is questioning things. Brett Weinstein has mentioned that because we as humans, what separates us from the rest of nature is we are the ones that create these constructs, these principles, and these ethics, right? We have created them. Now, some aspect of them are underlying and entrenched, actually, just in not just the human experience, but in nature itself. But there are areas where, once again, if we just live in the abstract or in the state of nature, then you can make excuses for doing all kinds of harms, right? Not necessarily malicious, but there are always aspects where humanity, there's where zero sum realities do exist. But once again, that's the beautiful thing about the human experience is we've figured out ways. We've created and we've constructed areas where we can deal with each other socially, personally, economically, and respect each other's sovereignty. And like I say, historically, it come from different areas of the mind. It was philosophers, there was religious teaching, like I say, Christianity. Today, I would love to see the secular world jumping on board. Like, to me, Ayn Rand, scratch the surface. Okay, you don't want to be a religious person. Okay, I'm going to create a whole philosophy called objectivism, and I'm going to use Aristotle and the basis of that's grounded in objective reality, tested hypothesis, and all these things. And I'm going to ground this in real tangible aspects of what it is in the objective realm. Stefan Molyneux has built upon that even further with his UPB, universal preferable behavior. I would love, rather than hearing a bunch of socialists or communists or fascists or even religious, I would love to have all these people sitting on a stage, and some of them are trying to do that, like Jordan Peterson and Weinstein and stuff. But bring this stuff in, get people on board, and start to think about these issues critically enough. We're going through our own modern intellectual era where we're separating, we're reading out the chat from the real shit, right? And let's get this stuff figured out. And if we can do it, because hundreds and hundreds of years ago, even math, like if you go back far enough, even math was a concept, was a fiction of the mind, right? But now we recognize, and most people accept it because it's a provable and a testable hypothesis. That's one thing I love in the secular realm in terms of science, things that are provably objective and testable, right? That's beautiful. But we also recognize that a lot of work and effort has been put in to make sure that the bare requirements of don't use preemptive force, violence, or theft, those things can be proven to be secularized and universalized in the secular realm. So for those people who don't even want to fall in line with Christianity, maybe the people are like, nah, I'm not going backwards, I want to go forward. Okay, you do your thing. Because once again, I'm not the controlling type of person. You do you. But should you not at least be sitting down, hammering out these ideas, these concepts, and figuring out how you can adopt them in the secular realm that is universal, where we no longer have to use government, force, or the proverbial gun, right? The stick constantly as a means to an end, where we can once again just get to the point where we all recognize that there is a voluntary means for all of these exchanges. I don't know why the secular realm The progressives, okay, you hate religion, you hate Christianity. Why aren't you trying to fill that void? Because what they're trying to fill that void with is, once again, the antithesis of being good, moral, ethical people who are benevolent to your fellow citizens, right? Theft is not benevolence. There's nothing benevolent about theft. So why is the second realm, why are the progressives constantly advocating for these things? Obviously, they have no ideas and they're not grounded in principles, which is why I don't care where it comes from, the business community, the Christian community, right? Philosophers, but somehow, some way, we've got to move beyond the point where we're using subjectivism in terms of how we deal with each other in the economic and the social realm, where we can get somewhere close to an objective realm where we recognize that violence and force, coercion, of theft is not the proper means to an end. How do we get that point? I don't know, but at the very least, I do know I've got some great folks like yourself, Jay and Martin here, and a lot of people in the chat who are all at least trying our best to figure out how do we get that point. And at least I know I'm in good company with you folks, because the people who are disagreeable and on the other side of this equation, well, they're the ones that, like I say, the minute I turn my back, they want to clobber me over the head and take every last dime I got in my pocket. So I'm, like I say, I'm really appreciative that you guys are here. And like I say, well, if you guys are okay with this, you want to maybe move into, or you guys say what you got to say in response to that, and then maybe see what's going on in the chat if you guys are okay with that.
I'm good. I support
I agree.
110% what you said.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
I second that.
Cool. And it's really great that you guys are both French too. Are you both in Quebec?
No, I'm in Ottawa.
Ottawa. Oh, yeah, right. Sorry,
Yeah.
I forgot. You're in Ottawa. Are you in Quebec, Jay?
Yep.
Right on, buddy. So that's awesome, because a lot of the times I end up speaking with other, like, you know, the English kind. I don't really usually have too many other conversations with French guys, but I'm always looking to, like, I don't give a, just like you guys said earlier, I don't give a fuck. You could be green, pink, you have a tinfoil hat. I don't give a shit. French, English. Well, I mean, obviously, it kind of helps if we can speak the same language, because that's one thing. I am your typical English Canadian. I will admit this, because English Canada is so much bigger in terms of geographic than French. I'm one of those Canadians that never get big into the French. I'm sorry about that, because I'm really humbled when I'm around my French counterparts in my own province of New Brunswick and in Quebec. Those fucking guys all know how to speak two languages, and here I am, this lowly fucking guy that only knows one. It actually does. I'm telling you, I'm not even joking. There's times like I should have done better, especially, you know, in school when they were teaching. Because I actually, tell you the truth, I was actually pretty damn good in French, like when they were teaching the whole thing. Because I had this great teacher. You know what's crazy? My French teacher in my grade 7, 8 was the only time I was ever interested in French. And she was a really great French teacher. But when I think of her name now, it's like, shit, there's no way she was French. Miss McMillan. There was no way she was even French. But she just, you know, you get the odd teacher that's really good at getting you to be interested in a topic, right, in a subject. And she was really good at that. And I was actually starting to get good at French. But then, you know, grade 7 and 8, well, chicks were way more important. So forget about all that stuff. But like I say, I'm really glad. And when I look out today, like Quebec, I'm seeing there's areas of Quebec where it's like there's only two. Well, Toronto to a lesser degree, but there's BC, Toronto to a lesser degree. But I'm looking at Quebec. When I see the people who are actually willing to stand up in defiance, I'm seeing Quebec every fucking day. That's where you got the largest amount of people in this country. And I got to say this, as an English-speaking Canadian, it's the French people. Now, of course, there's some French politicians that are going the exact opposite, where they're being even more ridiculous in their authoritarianism. So I'm not even saying it's just a French thing per se, but I do like the fact, matter of fact, I'd rather watch that disturbing fight between the freedom fighters and the authoritarian, but at least I see there's a semblance of it. Whereas in most of the English-speaking Canada, it's like, oh, well, we all just trying to pretend that we're all. One thing goes back to the old English thing and the British thing. It's like, we can all pretend we're all just so goddamn polite that we don't, like, fuck off with this shit, right? Like, fuck off with this shit. The stiff upper lip.
Do you want a point of view of a guy from Quebec?
Yeah. What?
Look, I'm in Quebec. I used to be the big blue guy. I'm gonna vote yes for separation and all that jizz. I mean, that was finishing, you know, high school and all that thing.
Right on.
Now I'm 41, and I'm, you know, in the last 20 years, I realize, I mean, they're selling us the idea that we're such a great country because we have multiculturalism and all that shit. when we can't even get along together with a language since the start of that fucking country. I mean,
And
what are you
2 languages,
kidding?
not 10.
Yeah,
2.
not 10, 2.
Yeah.
And the thing we have to realize is that, and I hate to say it like that, and a lot of people are gonna hate me for that. J'en ai plein le cul des Québécois puis de leur langue. I'm fed up with those Quebecers and French. I mean, you got to realize at one point you're in an English country. Why does every politician needs to learn French to be in politics? Why do we need to do everything into language? Quebec people needs to, dig a hole, get into it, and get off their high horse. I mean, it's just a language. Learn English. It's easier to learn than French, for God's sakes. So, when you go there with me, I'm like, yeah, I'm proud to be in Quebec. I'm proud to be in Quebec. What is there to be proud of? French and having a big bonfire one time a year. I mean, we got nothing left. Everything got destroyed with that multicultural thing. And so, yeah, no, don't come at me. Even people that can't talk in English, I mean, they come at me in French and Portuguese and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, talk to me about money or, economics or politics that's going to really advance something and not regress like 150 years back like we always do.
Well, you know what, Jay? Tell you the truth, man. That stuff so resonates with me because, like I say, I don't get into the whole collective thing, but I totally understand what you're saying because I've always been the weird part is when these people talk about not just collectivists, but this race to the lowest common denominator is so fucked up because I like the fact that there's all kinds of I wouldn't want to go like my wife, she would love to travel obviously the globe, right? And I would like to as well, but I would hate to go to fucking Europe and find just a bunch of goddamn I don't care, pick whatever language or whatever whatever heritage or background, but everybody was just like a carbon copy fucking exact. That would be the most mundane, boring bullshit. And once again, take it from someone that comes from a background of racing, right? I think about today. So whether in the cars side of things, when I was younger, I was a Chevy guy, right? Because when you North American cars, you got to be a Ford guy, a Chevy guy, or a Dodge guy, right? Now, I just happen to pick Chevy because it probably comes a lot to do with my dad was a Chevy. There's always kind of stupid shit behind that, right? But at the very least, I'm really glad that there's Fords and Dodges because I think of myself, could you imagine if everybody showed up the race and we all had fucking the exact same Chevys? Like, what's the point? What the hell is the point of this if we're all the exact same? That just doesn't make any sense to me, right? We're not just being like, to me, whether it's cooperation or collaboration, it's the fact that we're all unique and what we bring to the table. Isn't that the most important thing? I don't like this fucking bullshit in terms of multi or whatever societies. Listen, they're trying to turn us all into like NPCs. They're not even they pretend that they care about differences between us, but in reality, they're constantly saying they want to turn us into basically mirror replicas of each other. I'm glad Jay is a French guy with his own way of thinking and his own way and his own heritage and his own background, just like myself and just like Martin. I'm really appreciative that we come from different perspectives, backgrounds, and opinions, ideas. I'm really, really thankful for that. And it's not just in the racing.
I got out of the French Quebec thing that I realized that. I mean, you just need to get out of your little pond and go explore the world.
Mm-hmm. Right on. So Martin's been pretty quiet there. You got anything to add to the equation there, Martin?
Well, I married a unilingual woman from Ottawa. So, for me, and for me being a French Canadian from Montreal, I've never really sensed that I belong to the Quebecois culture per se. I had like a short moment in my teenage years where I was like, oh yeah, Quebec's great and should be independent, but that didn't last long. So no, and I was always very, very much an Anglophile. I really learned English reading comic books when I was a kid. So for me, the whole Anglo culture was super cool because, that was the universe of Batman and Superman. And so and then I got, in my teenage years, I really got into music. And sorry, but French music really fucking sucks. So for me, and my favorite bands are American and English. So, so I've always been attracted to the English culture, but I'm unique, like Québécois that lives in Chicoutimi and in Drummondville have a whole other experience, right? So, but it's just me. But I don't know. Like my boss now lives in Saint Jerome, and she comes from London. Obviously, she doesn't speak English that well, and where she lives now, she went for a walk and she was looking for directions, right? But she asked the person in English. But the first reaction of that French-speaking person was, "Man, what are you doing in Saint-Jérôme if you can't speak French? You need to speak French," right? It's like this type of mentality.
Au Québec, c'est en français.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're not helping themselves. Let's put it that way.
You know what's funny though? When you say that stuff, I was actually really impressed. I'm just going to tell you a real quick story here. When I was a long haul truck driver, I've been all over Canada, the US, like pretty much all 48 states. Actually, there's a couple provinces in Canada I didn't get to, but I was always in the States because long haul trucking, you're always down in the US. Now in Canada, I've been up really far north. And in Quebec, the furthest I think I went up north was you folks, I might be butchering the way you pronounce it, but you guys in Quebec might recognize this. It's called Rouyn-Noranda or something along those lines. Yeah. It's way up there. It's quite a ways up there, far north. And I thought, because driving truck, typically you're going east-west, the 20, the 40. If you're in Montreal, even Quebec City, to a lesser degree, not as much, but in Montreal or any of those places, freaking everybody speaks English, like dual language, like, you know what I mean? So you're not, as an English-speaking guy that don't know much French, usually you're pretty good. But I remember when I was doing that delivery, I thought, oh shit, if I get this far up in Quebec, I was actually amazing. I was like, Jesus, is everybody in Quebec speak fucking both languages? Because all the way even up there, I thought, I'm going to get up there and these guys are not going to know what the hell I'm saying. But there was actually, and very respect. Like, I thought I might even be in hostile territory, right? Not at all. That's one thing. Even when my parents moved me to Toronto when I was a little kid, I was only 12 years old, and the ghetto with all the Jamaica. But you know what? I've always been the way. I'm going to try. Are you reasonable? And what I've always found out, no matter who the fuck it is, Muslim, black, different language, if you treat people with respect and dignity, right? Yeah. You get that back for the most part. Now, of course, there's always going to be a liar and exception, but that to me, which is why I've never been ideologue in terms of like worrying about people's race or skin color or sexual or any of that, because none of it at the end of the day really means shit. It's what's going on in your mind, right? Are you a decent person? That's what matters to me the most, which is why we got to get away from this constant bullshit, because when we're constantly perceiving each other, and I'm glad that we have our own unique characteristics and identifiers. I'm all on board there because like I say, I don't ever want to be an NPC, but we should get to the point where we're starting to respect that instead of trying to like create a one size fits all or turn us all into NPCs. We should fucking flip that back upside down to the point where we're actually respecting each other for our own unique individual characteristics. Because like I said, I wouldn't want to live in a world where it's just all a bunch of people like me, or all just a bunch of Jays, or all a bunch of Martins. That wouldn't be all good. I love the fact, because what we all bring to the table is what has created the modern world we live in today. Because there's lots of areas that all fail and falter in, but maybe you will pick up that slack, Martin, or maybe Jay will do the instead. And that's why I'm really appreciative of the fact that as a libertarian or libertarian-oriented people, it's just a real simple thing, folks. I own myself, property rights, and non-aggression principle. Those three bases, that's really all we need. And now we can build on top of that all kinds of areas, right, to help and improve on it. But at the very baseline, the rules of engagement: don't use force, don't use violence, don't use theft, respect me as a sovereign individual, and what I produce and provide is mine, not yours. If we can deal with that, and every one of us that's watching this channel, watching this live stream, or at some point in time even thinks about this critically, you know damn well in your entire life, as it unfolded, it's the people that you treated with respect and dignity and didn't use harm or violence towards is the ones that's returned the favor, has made your life massively beneficial and productive as a consequence result. So let's just, like I say, let's just extrapolate that in from the personal realm and put that in the political realm as well, so that at some point in time, we don't have to constantly worry about who's voting for who, right? So that we have to defend ourselves, because what voting is today in late stages of democracy, democracy, all a vote is today is a means to try to defend yourself against other people who are trying to impose themselves on you. It's not about inspiring or emboldening or ideas or principles. It's once again, it's about preservation of your own liberties. But at the end of the day, nobody's getting the ability to defend them because each one's trying to overrule and override each other to the point where, once again, we're all seemingly economically social enslaved to each other. And that's not what I want. I want us to be able to socially and economically interact and engage with each other, but I don't want to feel beholden to Jay, and I don't want to feel beholden to Martin, and neither would I want them to expect or feel the same on the other side of that equation. Oh, I see someone.
I've been at
private chair. I told you I'd piss.
like I said, I
It's all
piss
good.
people off saying that. Just look at the last Gato
No,
Villano chat.
Oh, hey, I think you're saying, hey, I see Julie in the chat. I'm just going to run through the comments here because I
Hey,
know I was going to say
Julie.
this earlier. Yeah, what's going on, Julie? How you doing there, girl? Hi, everyone. Special hello to Jay for freedom. So, Jay, you got a fan girl up there, Julie. I know Julie as well. Let's see, Anarchy Rika. Well, Rika, she's someone that I've known for quite a few years. I quit voting when I realized what government is. Yeah, good one, Rika. Hey, Gato. Hey, there's a Gato. He's in Quebec as well, I believe. What's going on, Gato? How you doing today? Gato Villano. LOL. Jay, you are so stupid. What? You equate having a national identity to others.
Regarde,
you-
je te comprends, mon homme. Peut-être du français frustré que ta langue, comme toutes les autres. On en a
You guys
parlé
must
tantôt.
know
What's
each
up,
other.
Greg et ta gang? No, not at all.
You guys must know each other. I would imagine you just kind of joke around with each other. Emulator Entertainment. I hope we can find a way to vote away climate change. Yeah. Oh, did you hear that too, folks? The conservatives are getting in trouble today. I know I shouldn't even bring. Actually, no, we're not even talking about that topic today. So don't even worry about it. Just go to what else do we got here in the chat? Oh, I see Jay. You actually commented something what Jay had to say here. Also said you can't understand it. Oh, so you guys are talking to each other in the chat. I was wondering what. Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Illegal
multitasking.
alien structure.
Like
Yeah, right
one.
on. I know I'm not very good at that. I'm terrible at that. I'm one of those freaking old guys, I guess, that I'm a hyper focused dude. Emulator Entertainment. That's an oxymoron. Matt Dugas. Hey, what's going on, Matt? Thanks for joining the chat. Let's see. Get up here. Dat AC guy. Why would it necessarily matter if Jesus was or was not? If Jesus was or was not, what is ambiguously considered to be socialist? Well, that's a good question, actually. I like is that Lysander Spooner you got there? Nice. I think it looks like Lysander, right?
John left a comment that he lived in Ottawa for about 13 years with one in Hull. All fucking sucks, and the people are hateful towards English speakers. You're absolutely right.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, my wife is Anglo, and she refers to Gatineau and Hull as the dark side. It's not good.
Yeah, that's terrible, right?
Yeah, it is terrible.
It
It's
is.
so
'Cause
close. Like, come on.
But I won't lie to you, Martin. I got to tell you, in English speaking Canada, it's the same shit. There are people, not me, but there are people that, rag on the French people. That's the same shit. You know what's crazy is I've even been in New Brunswick, and the crazy part is where they'll even rag on, like, I've heard people like, although typically it's First Nations people, but even like black people, it's like, fuck, there ain't even any black people here. What the? No, but like in some of the places where I live, it's like people get these weird ideas, and what it is, it's handed down them by fucking knuckle draggers that have never thought about or never met any of these people, right? And just been, maybe their dad or someone got beat up by someone, right? And they just extrapolate that as if that must mean all people.
Yeah.
It's just knuckle dragging thinking, really, at the end of the day. But it always drives me crazy and it always happens. The more people you get together, right? That's that group thing. That's that fucking group, that collective mindset, which drives me nuts. Because you would rarely ever see one guy by himself saying, them fucking French guys, or though this or that. It's when they get around other people where they feel comfortable, right? Then they're like, but to me, like I say, I'm one of those people too. I like it. To me, it's like, I don't know if it's because I like to see the reaction, but I like pushing back against shit like that, right? If everyone else is traveling down that road, it's like, so what did this particular French guy do to you? Like, all right, show me here on this picture where this French guy does. No, like, because it does, because especially when they're talking in that collective mindset, right? If someone's just showing a grievance or fucking pissed off because one person did something to them, I'm all for that, right? their fucking asshole cut me off or whatever, whatever. But if you're just going to use the fact that that person shared a skin color or a language and therefore stereotype everybody that shares that as if because this person did something bad, you're like, okay, what you're telling me as an individual is you don't know how to think at all. You're just one of those people that I probably the only time I could ever put up with you is if I was completely drunk out of my mind and I didn't have to talk to you. I just seen that you were part of the equation in the room or something because I just can't get along with people that think and such that, man. Well, if I did, I would have never, if I ever hung around or associated with people like that, I would have never been able to achieve because they would have kept me down in the doldrums with them, right? That's the thing with these people. Misery fucking loves company. That's one thing I've always understood. The most miserable cunt you'll ever meet are the ones that are always trying to play these games. And what it is they feel miserable in their own selves, in their own skin, in their own minds. And they're like, I want other people to join me. Then I feel like, because everyone wants to belong. Right?
They're parasites.
Yeah.
It's exactly that.
It's crazy. But anyways, what was this? I was just going to answer this. Why would it necessarily matter if Jesus was or was not unambiguously considered to be? Well, because I would just answer this question that AC. The reason is because socialists advocate for using force as a means. Now, if you can point out to me, and I'm always here, once again, I'm always here. Listen, I don't like to stereotype people if it's not needed or necessary. So if you can point out to any socialist, I've never talked to one yet. I've never heard from one yet. I've never even seen a comment or a post or a video or an article from anyone that claims to be socialist yet who aren't advocating for using force, wealth, and income redistribution. So the minute force is entered into the equation, that's what I'm against, right? Socialists, the idea that they would like to give other people that are poor and disenfranchised a leg up in life. Listen, I'm with you there too. But the way to do that, right? How you do that is give them a job, give them the skills, give them the tools to become entrepreneurs, give them something to develop their minds, their occupational skills, whatever. But no, stealing from Peter to pay Paul, that's what we're against in terms of socialism. And once again, unlike most people, I'm not trying to invent the terms. Just look up what socialism is and look at how you would ever get to that or achieve that. And if you think there's a new way that's just that style of communism or socialism is wrong and they just haven't implemented your particular form of socialism, and that I would suggest, and I've always been willing to invite and entice anyone, if you're an advocate or any top-down authoritarianism, or even if you think it's a grassroots form of collectivism, I'll bring you onto my channel. You can explain to me how you can get from point A to B, how you can bring this socialist utopia or these social endeavors from the thought process into a real tangible world without using force or violence or theft. And if you can do that, listen, I'm more than willing to listen to what you've got to say. The problem is, though, is you're going to be a real exception to the rule and the outliers. And I've been listening to people, not just in the modern world, but people who have been these intellectual thinkers or Marxists over the decades and over the centuries who've yet to come up with how they can do that without using force or violence or theft as a means to that end. So once again, if you're that new person who have figured out how you can bring socialism to the world without using violence or force, coercion or theft, I'm your man. Bring it up here. I'll bring you on the channel and you can tell the rest of the world how we can do this great collective endeavor, right, in a voluntary means exchange. I'd say it's called free market. And I wouldn't even use the term capitalism. It's just free market exchange, right? Free markets and free people. That's all that's required for everything to unfold properly. And well, not necessarily. There's still going to be bad things that are going to happen, but you got a much better chance in the voluntary realm than using state, because the state is violence. That's what government is. Every time it says government should do this, they're saying I should use force for this reason.
Was there ever a project that government did that was successful and on time and on budget? I was having this discussion with a friend last week, and no, it doesn't exist anywhere in the world.
If you were going to do it, put it this way: if it was going to be adopted voluntarily, you would have done it in the secular, or the private sector, right?
Yeah.
So we know these things. I mean, Steve Jobs and even Bill Gates, as much as people hate Bill Gates, and I'm not a fan of who the fuck Bill Gates has turned into today. Like, what the hell's up with that guy? Like, Christ, man, how about you, just like some of the other people say, how about you worry about getting rid of the viruses on your fucking Microsoft network instead of but these people, listen, I will say, as much as I'm not a fan of Bill Gates in terms of his current ideological thinking, but I always will say that I respect the man and everything that what he did and what he provided and what he brought. But it only happened as a means because people deemed that as something that they wanted to. They rewarded him by saying, here, take my money, right? Or I love this product so much that I'm going to accept and adopt this because it's so user-friendly. So like I say, anything that interacts in terms of voluntary means, I don't care how it comes about or who brings it, even if it's a monopoly. I'm not even against monopolies per se, right? As long as that monopoly come to exist by means that just the overwhelming majority of people chose that they want to use that product or service because that's what they deemed as being the winner in the economic realm in that particular segment of society. But the minute you turn to the force thing, that's where we're parting ways, folks. And it's not that we libertarians can't use force. I point this out on a regular basis too. I'm completely, I'm pretty good at using force if I need to. I've had to do it a couple times in my life, and I've done a pretty good job at it. But what I recognize is that only gives me a small gratification in a short time frame, and then it comes with a whole lot of negative consequences and a result in the long frame. Everything that I've ever done voluntarily, though, has been beneficial at all venues, all stages, and for me today, for me tomorrow, for me next week, and for me next month, next year. So that's the area where we got to get to, and forget about this constant bullshit of using force. But anyways, let me see what folks are saying here.
I got something to answer to Merlin if he's still on. So Merlin said we need to legalize weed for all the people to grow unregulated. Jesus was a big weed smoker, and the anointing oil was weed. You are absolutely right. The Bosom Connect, it was called. I'm actually reading on it right now. My whole philosophy about Jesus and yes, cannabis is a big part of it, hence why I broke off with the Orthodox Church. So right now I'm actually in the midst of writing what I believe in and hopefully put it in print at some point. I don't want to be any type of guru or nothing. It's just that me as a person, I need to see it on paper. If people want to read it, perfect. If not, well, I don't really care. And Jesus was the first true anarchist as well. Yes, because he wanted to get rid of the Romans. This is something that's not really understood, but yes, in early Christianity, and if you take the Gnostics as well, they were seen pretty much as pariahs in their society. So absolutely, great point of view, Merlin. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and the tax on the weed. Yeah, well, I mean, taxation is theft at the end of the day, anyways. And I even said that in terms of the weed thing, I knew as soon as the Trudeau Liberals, the way they introduced legalization, they're just trying to take over the industry. Because
I worked in I actually was part of one of the first licensed producers of cannabis. I was part of this. I'll just say it was a Quebecois organization located in Gatineau. If you know who the producers are, you will figure out who it is. Okay. And it was supposed to be the big gold rush, the big thing when it got legalized. Everybody was, seeing themselves as being the next, I don't know, weed guru or the next Snoop Dogg and the younger people. And it just fucking flattered. It's just one of the reasons being is that Industry Canada does not allow any marketing, any promotional material to be distributed or any publicity in the media. And that obviously never helped. The fact also that the weed is of a lot lesser quality than what you would get on the black market, that speaks volume as well. And the, just the variety and also there were a lot of shortages in the beginning. I don't know if it's still the case because I left the industry after a year and a half, but yeah. So again, this is the prime example where they should have opened it to everyone, right? Yeah. Just like beer, just like you have those micro breweries everywhere. Like I think there's 30 around me in Ottawa, and they're all doing good. They should have done the same thing with weed. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, because that's one thing in Canada. This is the crazy part. If they wanted to, like, if the Trudeau Liberals genuinely, like, if you had a libertarian government, let's say Tim Moen had won that election instead, what legalization would have meant is just we're going to remove everything on the books that has any criminal imposition or charge as it pertains to the marijuana industry. or possession or cultivation. That's all it would. That's what legalization would properly represent. Well, I guess there's another way to describe that. Could be decriminalization is another word that people use to describe that, where you could just decriminalize, just take everything and remove any punitive measures or legislation on the book as it pertains to marijuana. And if you had done that, as we already know, is Canada already has, right? The reason why the government of Trudeau was hell-bent on trying to take over the industry is they recognize that there's already a very healthy, vibrant marijuana industry in this country. And as someone that's lived in Ontario and New Brunswick, primarily as my primary residences, there's never been any point in time, whether it's a teenager partaking, in school or as a 50-year-old man, there's never been any point in time in any jurisdiction in this country where it hasn't been easy to find some good, high quality weed at a really decent price in this country. And why? And never having to pay one goddamn dime in tax on that shit at the same time. And usually that guy, I've done a couple of video uploads. If you folks want to check them in the past, just type in the search bar, Matt from apartment 6B or Matt. But I've covered a couple of them. There's quite a comedic, actually, article that someone had put there. It's like, yeah, I'm going to stick with my local dealer here, Matt, in apartment 6B, because first of all, not only does he provide a high quality product, right, at a really reasonable price, but he's actually, and that's the fucking funny thing, is because a couple of the guys I work with brought in some of these. They went to Cannabis NB and it's like, actually, Matt in apartment 6B, way more. If you're a lefty and you're caring about the environment, then you definitely want to get your weed in the black market, right?
Yeah. Because
the product is going to not only is it primo, but the waste and the disposal, right, is quite minimal. A baggie. Hey, matter of fact, if the guy's in a rush, you might get a paper bag, right? Or maybe a little bit of tinfoil, right? But meanwhile, I seen like some of these guys that are buying from Cannabis NB. It's like you got the label, you got this big massive lid, you got this big fucking the thing that they put, and it's a gram. You put a gram in it. Meanwhile, the entire package, the content itself, if you take a gram, all the packaging weighs 10 or 20 times that, and it's like I say, I can't believe it. Well, of course, if you put government in charge of sand, there'd be a shortage of or in the charge of desert, there'd be a shortage of sand tomorrow because they would fuck everything up. And why that is because these people don't know. They've never been on the side of a voluntary exchange, right? Anyway,
something else with that too. When my cousin went a bunch of time to, be legal and buy it legal, you basically buy a 3.5 and you get 3 grams.
Yeah.
Or you buy a gram and you get 0.8. Because they package that shit like a month in advance in a warehouse somewhere with what you're saying, the little packages and the box and everything. So it got time to dry. Yeah, exactly, Martin.
Yep. And it's funny because when I was part of that licensed producer, there was no machine in existence that could, the formats were 3.5 grams and 15 grams. And there was no machine in existence that could actually drop the proper quantity of weed in the containers. So it was some I don't know, some thing that someone made in his garage, tried it out and sort of licensed it afterwards. But that's why like you could, so for 3.5, you could get like 3.3, sometimes 3 grams, sometimes 2.9, sometimes 3.7 grams. So it was never, so that was, and that really hurt too. And the quality was just goddamn dry.
Oh yeah. Actually, the weed industry, that's the funny thing though, is I've used this and I probably should use it more than I've already done so, because it's one area, whether you're young or old in this country. Actually, I think we should all do this. And you guys might already do this yourself. If you want to teach anyone the difference between the free market and government regulated bullshit, is the weed industry is the best. It truly is in this country is the best because, like I say, every time, just like you were saying, it's not like I've never been slightly dipped below the actual scalable weight, right? I've gotten home before and might have been down by 0.4, but I guarantee you just bring that up to the guy that you're getting, he'll make sure to make up for it next time. You know why? Because like the only thing that he has at the end of the day to get you to come back is he's got to treat you well. That's it, right? He don't have a gun. He don't have government force. The private sector guy is just like, I'm going to try to take care of you. Not because just like Adam Smith, the benevolence of the butcher baker, right? I'm not going to make your bread or fucking bake your bread or cook your cookies or do all this stuff just by sheer fact that I'm a benevolent person. Is I want to benefit myself, but the only way I benefit myself is if on the other side of the exchange that you're willing to do that voluntarily, right? That's the beauty. Just like in the free market or the black market of weed, the only way that exchange takes place is not like the weed industry, the marijuana industry has lobbied government, like the private sector folks, to force you. Unlike the insurance industry that force you that you have to buy from a certain. No, in the private industry they really rely on and require voluntary exchange, which means they got to treat you decent. Even that guy that you look as like, oh man, it's fucking, look at him. He looks like a bad dude. Look, his pants all fucking torn to shit. The guy looks like he just fucking, came out of fucking downtown Queen Street. But you know what? Even that guy is going to treat you way better, right? Why? Because his next fucking dime bag or whatever he's trying to sell is completely reliant on you being willing to accept that exchange voluntarily. So even the lowliest drug dealer in Canada in the private sector or in the gray or black market is much more, not so per se benevolent, but at least has the pretense of that voluntary exchange and realize that in order for me to get mine, you got to get yours. That's been such a benefit. And like I say, that's how the young people at least got to see that. Yep. If they don't understand macroeconomics in the proper sense, they can at least understand the means of voluntary exchange in that particular segment of society, because I think we've all experienced it in one way or the other, right?
Yeah. I think Emma later left the questions. What do you guys think if corps like McDonald's or stuff started producing products like the Mac joint? Hey, the more the merrier. If people want to buy a Mac joint, please go ahead. Listen, it's all relative. It's not because I think it's a stupid idea that someone else will agree with me. It's a free market. For me, it's like, you can even have, I don't know, joints made in gold for all that matter. And I think it does exist. There's a big weed store in Las Vegas that sells them. And I think they sell for like $150,000 or something like that in gold foil and all this stuff. And you can actually, smoke it. And I think it's genius. If people have the money to buy it, why not?
For sure. Right on. I got David that's joined the chat today. I believe he's a Texan down there in our good friends and neighbors down to the south there. Stand strong, Canada. America's rooting for you. Hey, right, yeah. Right on. Well, thanks, David. And we're definitely, like I say, we're definitely trying to take some of our cues. Well, I'll tell you as a Canadian, and I get a lot of my fellow Canadians get pissed off at me, but you know what? I'm sorry, but our story in Canada is not nearly as good as the story of the American experience. And that's just the reality, folks. I can't stand the fact that you're even hearing stories today. Was it one of the, not Jamaica, one of those islands down there is turning against the fucking monarchy. They're rejecting the monarchy. But here in Canada, no, we got to keep it. It's like, well, that's one thing about Canada that's always kind of driven me nuts, especially in the English side of fucking things here is, yeah, not only do we love ourselves some government, but we like multiple layers of that shit, apparently. Not me, mind you, but apparently lots of my fellow serfs and slaves and subjects, though. It's like, yeah, I don't want just big government, but we need like a couple layers, right? We need big government and we need to have a queen. Like, really, though? We really? Really, yeah. Think that's one thing I will say about you fine French folks at the very least. At least you gave up on that shit.
Yeah, right? We got rid of the king.
In quite a disturbing manner, but it's all good. Yeah. It's all good.
Off with their head.
But it is crazy to hear people. And you know what? Part of me, I will say this though, just because I like to play both sides of it so that people realize that I'm not an ideologue or dogmatic. I kind of understand some of the ones that are defenders of monarchy and only for one reason only, and that's by the sheer fact that I suppose if you claim to be a monarchy and it's your land, like you claim, I will say at the very least, the people who claim ownership over something tend to take a little better care of it. I kind of get that, right? I kind of get that, but at the same time, that can't be the excuse to allow a monarchy in 2021, right? We kind of should have moved beyond that a little while ago, as far as I'm concerned. Once again, I'm not a fan of democracy, but I'm not a fan of having some, mummy or daddy that's my dictator in charge of my authority either. So I'm kind of against that stuff. But it is a weird thing, especially, like I say, not so much I would imagine for you folks in the French side of things, but on the English side of things, especially CBC. I call them the loyalists. Right? It's just like, holy fuck, man. Are they ever
there's
beholden? Are they
there's
ever
a lot of
beholden to the crown?
monarchists. Yeah, there's a lot of monarchists out there.
Yeah.
Even philosophically speaking, politically speaking, like they take it, I guess, from Julius Evola and all that, mindset of, having kings. It's like, whatever.
Well, hey, listen, Martin, what would you
Not
think?
in-
And Jay,
not
what do
in
you guys
Quebec.
think? Listen, I'm not a big fan of having authority per se, but if you're going to have it, why have just the king? Why not have the king of kings, right? To me, why punch in the middle way of things, right? Who supposedly gives kings their authority? But God or Jesus, right? Well, then why? Let's just eliminate the middleman and go straight to the
Yep.
top, right?
I agree.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Anyways, that's my thoughts on it. Anyways,
Well,
Rob
it's
Badley, great
another
job,
thing in
Dick.
Quebec that makes Quebecers who they are. I mean, we don't have anything else that our little bonfire once a year in French, and what they don't all realize that they all little American now. They got
Yeah.
Americanized.
Hey, I like I said, I love the American story. I freaking love the history, the story, all that heritage. It's just so vitally important, especially like I say, for those of us. And I mean, whether you're French or English, right? It was to give the middle finger to the authorities in Europe and say, I'm going to go out and start on my own, do my own thing. Now, when you get in the aspect of like, sorry, go ahead.
We should have followed.
Yes, 100%. To this day, and I'm not a big fan. I don't have any Stockholm syndrome, but hey, if I'm going to have an authority in the secular realm in terms of government, I would much rather Canada be the 51st state. At bare minimum, two things would be the most greatest advantage for Canadians is the First Amendment, the real First Amendment, 100%. Like, unless you're advocating violence, you can speak freely, right? And that, most importantly, the Second Amendment. If you have those two aspects and it's entrenched not just in your culture, but in the psyche of most of your citizens or your peers, and like I say, the story that says that you rejected having the authority. Canada, we are truly a nation of Stockholm syndrome individuals where we don't really know what it is fully to be sovereign individuals, and that's a sad state of affairs, but we are working our best, those of us. And I gotta mention, Martin, you're 48. How old are you, Jay?
41.
What's that, 41?
Yep.
Oh, so then so I gotta tell you, so it looks like we Gen Xers might be very well be I've always suggested this anyway, we're pivoted and we're positioned in the right demographics at the right time, at the right age, at the right mental and psychological and physiological aspect in terms of our competence, our skills, and our abilities. I will tell you that Gen X does seem like, well, we have the opportunity. We've been overlooked and ignored for the most part, right? Because boomers and millennials seem to be fucking sucking up the most oxygen. But I got to tell you, we are the leaders of liberty in this modern
We're the
world.
last generation to not get trophy for everything.
That's right. And I tell you, we got to definitely do. And you know what? The day will come, right? All this effort, all this work we're putting in, whether we're acknowledged today, who fucking knows? But if we keep doing what we're doing, I assure you that this is going to resonate with people. And it's going to definitely resonate with the younger people. Right now, they're being told socialism is the rebel or the counterculture. But trust me, give them just a little time and they'll realize where the true rebel and the counterculture is. It's not statism or progressivism. It's libertarianism. It's having that live and live mentality and saying, fuck you to the man. And we can find our own ways in life without needing some top-down authority. And we are, like I say, Gen Xers are doing our place. And we have some great people in the economic realm as well. Like I say, not just Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Eric Wine. I can name drop all day the kind of people who are out there front and center who are trying their best. And they typically are Gen Xers. And that's, like I say, yeah, they've tried to overlook and ignore us, but we're punching way above our weight. And at some point in time, they're not going to be able to ignore us anymore. I assure you of that, because we're not going anywhere anytime soon, because we're kind of in it for the long haul. We've kind of got a vested interest because we've got a little bit of life yet to go, right?
Seems that Jordan Peterson will
Julie's
get
laughing at us.
Yeah.
Go ahead. When you guys talked over there.
Sorry, Martin. Go ahead. I was laughing.
I was just saying that it looks like Jordan Peterson will have Elon Musk on his show, so that should be interesting. It's funny, Elon Musk, because a lot of people see him as this big capitalist guy. I know I'm pretty sure he is, but he's so much more. I mean, smoking a blunt on the Joe Rogan show, that was quite something. It's like, all right, okay, he's serious, like, and he doesn't give a fuck. And I mean, just because of that, like, I love the guy, and he really built something, and now he's going into space, and he's like the Bill Gates but a more cooler guy.
Yeah. If you're a younger person today, you should be. If you're a younger person today, you should be emboldened and inspired by the likes of Elon Musk. I mean, the amazing fact that historical context. I mean, think about it. It's not libertarians aren't just spewing bullshit. They're leading by example. And Elon Musk, make no mistake about it, the man's a libertarian.
Yeah.
Okay. And he has said, all right, right. No violence. He didn't hire people that are educated in woke ideology to go fucking rail against a man. No, he said, you know what? I can create a whole new way to get into space and to traverse the universe and to seek out different ways to explore. And you know what? I'll do it my own way. Now, of course, he still has to. I get, and people say, oh yeah, he said to get subsidies from governments. Listen, we live in the modern status world. You're not going to function in any way without having to find some ways to work in this environment. So I get it. But at the very least, he is showing and leading by example that there's a way to step out. And if you don't believe him in terms of what he says or the products or services he provides, when I don't know if you guys heard my stream when I did this, I was so impressed. I ordered Starlink because my internet connection, my fucking piece of crap internet connection that sucks so bad. Xplornet, you suck so bad. Anyways, so I've ordered Starlink and I got in early. I still haven't received it as yet. But when I put in my deposit on my the system that they're going to send me, so you have to pay $139 or $129, I think it was Canadian, and you get your receipt for it. So I'm waiting for my system. But it's funny, once you get it, then you get your credentials so that you can go into the Starlink website, check on your order and all that stuff. Well, if you go down it, I'm one of those really fucking weird dudes that go in to look at this stuff because no one else would ever look at this shit. But I did. And I went into their disclaimer and all their fucking policy, and it was so hilarious. The minute you leave Earth on any of their ships and you're either in traversing to the planet Mars in the vessel or on the planet Mars, guess what? Don't look for government to arbitrate your disputes. I swear to fuck, it's right on their website. I was like so impressed. It's like, holy shit, Elon Musk, this guy is legit. It's right in their terms of service that you will have to use an arbiter for any dispute you have with Starlink because there is no government and there's not going to be a government on Mars. Well, not if Starlink and Elon Musk with SpaceX has anything to do with it. So it's like I say, these are guys that aren't just talking the talk, but they're walking the fucking walk. They're leading by example. I mean, Elon, and then you got, like I say, Peter Thiel, the startup of PayPal, all these innovators in terms of cryptocurrencies. They're showing ways. Like I say, we don't have to fight any violent revolutions. The stuff in the old, even for you French guys, right? We don't have to do that, man. We don't have to do that anymore. We've got it all figured out. We just got to step outside the current paradigm and create an entire structure that functions alongside. And once again, it's just like any creative adventure or venture is once you create an area, it's like, look how well this works. And this is this, right? It's like, here's your status bullshit. And here's libertarianism over here, right? Once you've offered that and it's actually in place and some place where people can gravitate to, I don't know. I mean, some people might want to stay over there in top-down big government collectivist realm, but I'm pretty sure the rest of us are like, I like it over here. I really like it over here, right? I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure big fan of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean,
on that spaceship.
Yeah, I mean, the general people are still very naive about crypto and Bitcoin and all that stuff. And I know it takes a bit to learn as well how it works and what it does. But what it does is that you can make a lot of money. That's for sure. But I think it's the fact that people are, I don't know, they're conditioned to live in, I don't know, I'll use that word, but in the matrix, I guess. And they're afraid to seek other solutions, other options. Some people are very content with what they have as well. And they're like, they don't want to rough any feathers, and they just go on with their lives. And it's sad because, and when I look at and this may be a bit controversial, but there's like 50% of the population has an IQ less than 80. So, those is it those people necessarily, or I see very intelligent people that are like super authoritarian and think that socialism is the best thing, and that Canada and Quebec and Ontario are not socialist enough all the time. But I don't know where's why isn't it inherent in the human being that libertarian is the way to go, right? What makes people wanting to control? And we're back at what we were saying at the beginning. What makes why do people want to control others?
Well, I think I have a at least I have a plausible explanation, and I don't necessarily know if my answer is entirely, but once again, it kind of goes back to that thing of the power mechanism, right? So the reason why libertarianism isn't accepted per se is because people realize, and this is just a reality, is violence, right, and force as a means to an end does benefit the people who are using it. The problem is, though, it's once again, it is the area where it is a zero-sum game. And most people don't want to participate in an adventure or any kind of endeavor where it's a zero-sum game all the time, right? That's the beautiful thing about the free market is there's always, like I say, when it's voluntary, the exchange suggests that the only way it takes place is each person walks away from it feeling like they've benefited, right? But in the voluntary exchange, or in the free market at the very least, there's also the means where you can, find multiple ways to feel like you have not just benefited yourself, but society and community at large. Whereas in the statist realm, it really, truly, they put forth the pretense that benevolence is the most important thing. But at the end of the day, it's about power. It's not even, to me, it's not even necessarily about the money per se, because the money is just the secondary aspect of power, but it's the power, right? And it's the people who are seeking power are the ones who seem to have the most dominance these days. And I don't want to play the power game. I get it. Well, actually, you know what? What I would suggest is we have to pick one or the other. And I've said this in the past too, I'm willing to play the power game. I'm totally, as a matter of fact, if everyone said we're going to go back to the state of nature where it's just might makes right, I can deal with that. I've done okay in my life. I've challenged myself. I've been up against quite a few people, and I'll do okay. The problem is, even myself, even if I recognize that I might be a benefactor or a beneficiary in that system, I am only going to benefit myself immediately. But if the rest of everyone else's society is losing as a consequence, then my rate of returns is going to greatly diminish at some point in time, because the only way I can extrapolate or take from other people that something that I can seem to be beneficial to me is if they have something worth exchanging or worth taking, right? So it really, at the end of the day, I shouldn't say taking, but exchanging. So really, at the end of the day, the best way we all function is if other people have the ability to raise and elevate their positions or their lots of life in the well. And not only does it benefit them, where I can, so if the other person is benefiting themselves so they have more money to spend or expend, then I can benefit them as someone who wants to sell them a product. But at the same time, if someone else is benefiting themselves, by the voluntary means, it also means that they have the means to help other people in their community. So once again, it's always beneficial for those of us to use the voluntary means, because it's a benefit not just for me, but everyone else in society. The zero-sum game, it's only going to always lead to the same place. Some people are going to win, some people are going to lose. Now, either you're willing to accept to be on the side of the losers or the winners, but once again, that doesn't mean that you're going to be the winner all the time, every time, for all of eternity. So it really, what it means is just set up the rules. Just like, I love using this for example. If you're going to sit down and play a board game with someone, the only way you're going to be willing to voluntarily play that board game is if the rules are set up that you at least have you might lose against your opponent, right? If you're playing Monopoly with your opponent, you might lose, but at least the next game, if the rules stay the same and everyone has to abide by the same rules, you know that the next time you play the game, as long as you've, put a little bit more work, a little more effort, learned a few things about, economics, all that stuff, or properties, you might actually gain yourself and benefit and win against the other person, right? But the minute the rules have set up in any way where one person, one group, or one entity is always going to win every time because the rules set up that way, who wants to participate? Nobody really wants to participate, or the ones that do participate are going to want to rig the game themselves against the other person. So once again, it's a race to the lowest common denominator, or the race to lack of ethics or morality or principles entirely. Sorry, I know I ramble. So, anyways, what are you guys thinking? Should we tie this bad boy up here? Because I know I've been kind of.
It's
what do you
almost
guys
2
want
hours
to
and
do?
a half.
Yeah, we've been. I know I've been kind of going on here. So let's see. Let me just see what's left in the chat here. Facebook and Snapchat changed their privacy so much, even the loony with me. I don't know. I don't know what you're saying there, David, but if registering for an anti-lockdown, anti-mask, anti-vaccine, anti-corporate funding, anti-UN party could be considered as voting, and if enough people register for it and compared election results, might have been talking to each other because I'm not sure quite what they were saying. There are two ways. Okay, what's we got here? Adrian Petre. Hey, looks like another gentleman from the fine province of Quebec, or maybe New Brunswick, or maybe he's just traveling around the provinces. But he looks like Petre is a French name, right, guys?
Petre. Yeah.
Yeah, Petre. I worked for a guy, actually. You know what's funny? I worked with a guy, not for a guy. There's a scrapyard in Ontario, Standard Auto Wreckers on the East Coast, in Scarborough there. Jason Petre. You know what's funny? His mother was French and his father was a Newfie, so he's a French Newfie. That's kind of combo, isn't it? That was a pretty good one. Hey, what's going on? So cold joint. Hey, I can't even afford a normal joint. Uh-oh. That sucks, man. Cold joint. Are you talking about welding there or paving? I've done cold joints when you're talking about paving. Actually, I'm into paving. Actually, I get a kick out of that stuff when people say, well, who will build the roads? I don't know if you guys realize this, but I actually work for paving companies in New Brunswick. I do, motherfuckers. That's who. But when you talk about actually cold seams or cold welds, not necessarily welds per se, but we have these things, shuttle buggies. I don't know. I'm just going to throw this information, not even pertaining to any shit. But are you guys familiar with what a shuttle buggy is? It's that big giant machine. I actually run it here in New Brunswick in the Fredericton area and stuff. I sit up on the machine. I got the trucks that back into me. They dump their loads. So you got the live load belly trailers today with 30 tons typically in your dual axle dump trucks, but they dump it into the belly of the shuttle buggy. My shuttle buggy will hold about 35 tons in the belly and another 15 tons in the hopper, and then you probably got another 5 up into the chute and the conveyor that dumps it into the paver. But the beautiful thing about having these things today, and this is once again private sector, beautiful, innovative ideas, is in the old days, you remember the frost heave and shit? Well, what would happen when you're building highways is when you run out of trucks and they all got to go back. Once you get far enough away from your area that's doing the actual mill is, right, that's doing all this stuff, is you have to shut it down and then you have to start up when the trucks get there. So it might be an hour and a half later when the next round of trucks get to your paving, but you've had to stop your paving and then you have to start again. But then you get what's called and that's an area where you get a lot of the frost heaves. But today with shuttle buggies and this modern advancements in technology is the shuttle buggy holds enough aggregate and enough asphalt that I can keep the paving going. Even when there's a truck, maybe 15, 20 minutes before it arrives, I can keep it going at a slow enough pace where I can keep that fucking road going along. And once you don't get any cold seams anymore. Now the seams are completely, straight and in line. Actually, Americans have been doing this for a long, long time. Actually, America does even much more than what we do in terms of the interstate system. I didn't realize this until I started driving long haul, but it's an entire foot of reinforced, rebar reinforced concrete underneath all their interstate system. Can you imagine how expensive that would be? Even in Canada, just do our one major highway, the Trans-Canada. But like I say, I love these innovations and these ideas and these things that people bring to the equation. That's what the beauty of the market does, folks. And when people ask you these things, who will build the roads or who will do this? That's why we need the people that are in the business community or business oriented or thinking about these things. Is like when people ask me these questions, who will build the road? Well, I can tell you, I can fucking build that road for you. Just got to pay a little money. And when you're talking about eminent domain, well, let me tell you, Most of the roads are already built in this country. Most of the area or geographical land masses that are needed or required for whether you're talking about pipelines or any other infrastructure is already readily available. You can go underground, you can go above ground. There's so many ways that you can deal with and avoid, even people that are worried about, let's say, protected areas. There's so many innovative ideas and entrepreneurial capitalists have thought about these things. Even the First Nation communities, I would like to go into them and say, listen, you guys are worried about your environment, right? I'm totally on board with you there. I'm just like Jesus. I want the earth, right? I want the earth to stay pretty goddamn. I don't want my kids to fucking be walking around choking on smog and shit. But I tell you, innovators, idea people, entrepreneurs, they've already thought about this stuff and they've already got the solutions to your problem, and they haven't yet. Just give them the time and give them the right incentive and compensation, and trust me, they'll solve your problems. You don't have to run to government. Right? You don't have to run to socialism or communism or fascism or any form of collectivism. You just got to use the innovation and the ideas of the beautiful individual who comes up with these constructs in their mind, because that's the other thing I want people to recognize too. Everything that humans develop and create is a concept of the mind. And there is no such thing as a collective mind. There's only the individual mind. So every goddamn idea, everything that's ever happened through all of human history come as a construct of the human mind and the beautiful voluntary exchange and interactions of other people who are willing to bring that into fruition. And that's what we need to do going forward. And that's what's going to help us. And that's why Jesus was never socialist, and why socialism is a fail, and why we'll never need socialism at any time going forward. All we need is freedom and the economic prosperity and the innovation and the ambition for people to bring their ideas to light and to fruition in the real world. And once again, the sky's the limit at that point in time. And it's not even just the sky's the limit. As Elon has shown, Mars, the universe,
it's not a limit.
Anything. There is no limits anymore. There's no limits anymore, folks. Let's keep these ideas and these innovations going, and let's do our best to advance humanity and get out of these doldrums of constantly thinking we're the only way we'll ever be better is if we can steal from someone else to do us or give us some leg up in life. Like I say, I wouldn't want to live in that mindset. That's a terrible place to be as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, you want to tie this one up?
Culture, anyway. Yeah, sure. The 2 hour and a half, people are going to get tired of us.
I know. Well, listen, I'm one of those guys I can ramble on forever, as you guys probably know, and I really enjoy talking with you folks. Anyways, I would do another 20 years in Texas. I loved it. Just read a couple comments here. Love it. Yeah, I've contemplated that as my as well. Matt Dugas, I've actually contemplated moving to the U.S., but I don't know. I'm a Canadian guy. I'd like to fucking fix our country. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have a friend in Arizona, and he always wants me to move there. Like, I haven't been able to go see him now, but he's always, you should come. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
But you know what? But that's the thing. Should we expand liberty? That shouldn't be the only fucking place in the entire country, right? I get it. And listen, there's some days where I think, well, depending on how things bad get, right? Because I also recognize that I only have a limited amount of power within myself. If I'm up against a behemoth, there are times where you might have to want to flee. Right? I'm not a fucking martyr, but right, I do want to live a few more extra years. But at the same time, I'm going to stay here as long as I possibly can, because I want Canada. I think Canada, because we are the neighbor to our Americans counterparts to the south, I think we have it within us. And because we're in a northern nation, at the very least, Canadians know the goddamn importance of saving and thinking about long-term prospects. I know Canadians understand this. I know we've got enough of American culture because we grew up on the television, the movies, the music, all the radio stuff, right? So we've got it within us. So what I'm saying is, let's expand on the American exceptionalism or the ideas of liberty. Let's not, I can't stand when I hear Canadians, finger wag and talk down about Americans for their belief and their exceptional beliefs in liberty. That's not a bad thing. That's a good fucking thing, right? I like the fact that in Americans, even today, right, it looks disenfranchised and in disarray, but they're fighting the good fight. What's going to come out on the other side of it, I don't know, but I have a lot more faith, right, in the fact that the American culture and the American experience and their belief in their liberty is going to win out at the end of the day. And that's what I want Canadians to do. I don't want to just, rely on forever looking up to my neighbors in the south. How about we punch way above our weight to the point where we don't have to constantly export our ideas, our innovation, our creativity. That's what Canadians have been doing for the last fucking couple hundred years. Every time a Canadian wants to punch above their weight and do something exceptional, we always seem to have to run to the American jurisdiction of some sort to bring that to light. I don't want to have to do that. I don't want your modern Tom McDonald's or your modern, all these people, right? The ideas people or the music creators or the singers or whoever the hell it is. I want them to be able to do that in this country. So like I say, let's forget about, destroying the Western ways. Let's reinvigorate and reinvent what it is and make Canada part and parcel of the American experience, not something so separate from it that we look at each other as opponents. That's a weird thing. That is a real strange thing.
For that, we have to kill the PC culture for sure.
Yeah, big time. We really do.
Spiritualist people, PC culture, all that shit's killing us right now. We need the community to come back. Read the fucking Art of War. Divide to conquer. It's not easy to understand. I mean, that's what they're doing. People come back together.
Actually, yeah, it's down there. Actually, I just got that. I got the paperback one. It's actually really small. Sun Tzu, Sun Tzu there. I was surprised the little paperback is just it showed up. It's like, that's it. It's not a really big book, but yeah, that's a great book. Actually, Machiavelli, The Prince. I've been just on a book ordering tirade there lately, just to have them in physical copy. I've read a lot of these things in the e-publications. I like having physical copies of books because it's something that you can pass down too, right? For other people as well.
Yeah, there's a Japanese one called The Book of Five Rings too, which is super good. I think it's as good as The Art of War.
Yeah,
nice.
For those interested. Yeah,
right on. Well, anything like that, like
the thing that disappeared the most of our society in the last 10 years. So,
yeah,
and now we just have those little screen and internet and all the propaganda that's on it. I mean, yeah. Pass your books, Bennett. That's knowledge.
Right on. Yeah, I really enjoy that. So, anyways, like I say, thanks you guys for really joining the chat, and thanks for all you folks. Sorry, I didn't get to read as many comments as I would, but as you folks probably realize, I really get actively engaged, especially when I have such great guests like you folks on here. So, like I say, I'll be dealing with a different topic here next week. I'll figure something out. It's going to be something important. I'll try to come up with for sure. But like I say, thanks to Martin and thanks to Jay. And if you guys, do you want to, before you tie this up, offer any last advice or any links or anything that you're going to do, or in maybe some event or venue you want to do or something you want to promote, you just go right ahead, and then I'll tie it up here, guys.
Martin, go for it.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for listening, and thank you, Bennett. Fight a good fight. We'll keep fighting.
Right on. Well, thank you again, Martin. Go ahead, Jay.
Same here. Thank Bennett for having me, and love you, everybody. Just, stop the polarization. Come back together. Unite. We need that if we want to win.
Big time. You guys really made me feel good today, man. I really enjoyed this. And like I say, thanks for you guys for coming on and having this chat with me today. And like I say, we definitely know that Jesus was not a socialist, and socialism is never the answer, folks. What it is, if you want to help your fellow man, the way to do that is to lead by example and step up and do that. Don't look for other people to do it. You step up and do that yourself. Because if you lead by example, not only you doing the right thing, where you're helping embolden and inspire other people to do so. Socialists always look to put that responsibility on other people, right? A libertarian or anyone, you don't even have to be a libertarian, just someone that genuinely has care and compassion for your fellow man or even your own lot in life. Like I say, the one thing that you've always seen and acknowledged that's proved beneficial is if you can do things on your own fruition and your own voluntary means, and that is where people recognize and acknowledge it truly came from your heart and from your mind and your soul. The minute it doesn't take much, it doesn't require anything. You'll put a proverbial gun or force someone else to be benevolent on your behalf. It's when you step up and you take that personal responsibility for yourself. That's how you lead by example. And that's how we're going to step outside this current status paradigm and bring ourselves to this modern iteration of liberty, which once again is going to be not just akin, but kind of like the Enlightenment era, but on steroids. And it's going to come to fruition. The bad folks, the bad actors, the people with malice and malicious intent, they've got a lot of positions of power and authority. But the reason why we are having our voices silenced and suppressed is because what they don't have is truth, reason, logic, or genuine morally compassionate ethics and morality to back up their claims or their principles. That's where we win. They might have lots of power right now at their disposal, but they're losing it hand over fist because they don't have the right ideas and they don't have the right means to back their ideas other than force. So we just keep doing what we're doing.
Because
We're
they
going to
don't have
win
any
in the
common
long run. Yeah, exactly. We will win. We will advance liberty, but there's definitely going to be an interim where we're going to go through some trials and tribulations. Just like in the Bible, there is no way. That is just what it is, right? If you go against the grain, it's going to cause some friction. That's just the reality. And in this modern world, it's unfortunate that to go against the grain is to be the one that's taken the genuine moral and ethical position of principle. But that's a good thing, like I say, because once again, we are the ones that's actually creating and beating down the proper path going forward. And we got to be the trailblazers. And I'm good with that. Matter of fact, I never wanted to be a follower. I prefer to be a leader. And I'm sure Jay and Martin want to do the same thing. So that's what we're doing today. Thanks for all you folks have joined us in that travel as well. And we'll see you in the next live stream. Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.